I don't know what happened. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the David Carson Show. My intro broke, apparently, but whatever. It's all good. Welcome to another episode. We got some interesting stories to cover today. If I could find my notes, we're off to a great start, aren't we? All right, let's get into it. Elon Musk may have prevented World War III. Biden ordered political hit on RFK Jr. Bill Gates buys $95 million in Bud Light stock, causing calls for boycotts to increase, which is hilarious. Jimmy Fallon canceled by his own leftist staff in complete meltdown. Also hilarious. Firearms decreed illegal in New Mexico by Democrat governor. Migrants take over abandoned New York City school. Pro-life advocates face potential 11-year prison sentence after peaceful protest at abortion clinic. RFK Jr. sounds alarm on DNC's fixed primary process. True Social might dissolve very soon. It's kind of disappointing. I kind of like True Social. There's way more leftists on there than people think. There's a lot of, it's more middle of the road than you think, because I think leftists has gone there to troll. So that'd be disappointing. And finally, former Democrat issues stark warning about Biden's policies. We are going to lose this country, she said. All right, awesome. Let's get into the first story. Elon Musk may have prevented World War III. Here's a clip.
I do want to talk about this story, though. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be Donald Trump, nor will it be Joe Biden. The man who will save this world is Elon Musk. I'm being facetious. That's kind of the joke, but I'm also only half joking.
Online
Aside from
trolls,
Elon challenging the narrative machine of the ADL, calling out corrupt politicians, securing, not perfectly, but helping people bring back free expression on social media, Elon Musk, it is being reported now, averted World War III and may have saved the planet from nuclear annihilation. The probability of that being the circumstance is probably very, very low, but it just sounds fun, so I want to say it. The story is actually really simple. We have this from the Washington Post. Elon Musk cut internet to Ukraine's military as it was attacking Russian fleet. So the first story that comes out is that while this major counteroffensive was underway, Elon Musk shuts down Starlink, cutting their communications, stopping the offensive. Elon Musk responded, saying there was an emergency request from government authorities to activate Starlink all the way to Sevastopol. The obvious intent being to sink most of the Russian fleet at anchor. If I had agreed to their request, then SpaceX would be explicitly complicit in a major act of war and conflict escalation.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. He's also, if you think about it, SpaceX is a government contractor. So if he did that, the implications are obvious, right?
I wonder if wrong article. If Ukraine sank Russia's Black Sea fleet using SpaceX, using U.S. weapons and intelligence, would Russia have dramatically escalated the conflict at the time? There's
probably not, in my opinion, but it's a potential.
A possibility it may have been the case. I don't know for sure, but Elon Musk refused to provide Starlink to be used by the Ukrainians in this counteroffensive.
Do you know SpaceX is a government contractor for NASA and everything? So, like with the whole thing recently about the Department of Justice going after Elon Musk, they're saying he's not hiring enough refugees. Well, he can't because they're technically part of the military, because they do missions with them and stuff. So if he would have done that, that'd be crazy. A government, they're going to put that all over Russian media. Sounds like a terrible idea.
They have single-handedly stopped a major escalation, which could have led to World War III.
Do you know what the size of the fleet was and the makeup of the fleet in Sevastopol at the time?
No, we do know that U.S. provided intelligence to Ukraine to sink their flagship. So I don't know.
That actually happened. That happened in the Black Sea.
That's
right.
That
happened already.
Yep. Ukraine used U.S. weapons and intelligence. And I think it's even unfair to say the U.S. sank the flagship of Russia's Black Sea fleet.
They definitely took
and
part
Ukraine
in
was
it.
intending to do more damage. And Elon Musk said, I'm not going to assist you with this. Could you imagine if he did? That's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds
He was
awful.
pretty open in the early days that he didn't want to be involved with the war. And I think he was going to send Starlink to Ukraine, and then they said no because they wouldn't do it under his terms or something. And then he was like, okay then. And they're like, actually, we need it. So then he sent it over there.
Yeah, and then he ended up, I thought he took it away because they were talking trash about him, but I don't know.
A time ago.
I haven't stayed up on it.
Yeah.
He's trying to protect Earth until we can get off of it and go to Mars.
The men who built America were not politicians. They were businessmen.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I mean,
Facts.
in terms of the uniparty establishment machine, man, Elon Musk is running afoul. But it shows the decay of the uniparty power in that Elon Musk openly defies them, does not allow them to wage war using his infrastructure. This is unprecedented. If you look at Twitter before Elon, they gleefully gave the government anything they wanted. It kind of, I'm optimistic, man.
He's making me into a bigger fan.
Social media was part of the CIA.
I'm looking at a restoration of true American values of decentralization of power. And for the longest time, we had an authoritarian uniparty that did whatever it wanted, regardless of the Constitution. Now, you look at all of their devices, you look at the activist base, you look at the narrative machine, and they're failing across the board. People tweeting about how the ADL no longer has any power. They say, all these people who are criticizing us are white supremacists, and everyone laughs. No one cares anymore. They have been defanged.
It's kind of like the uniparty when
It's all become a joke, and they did it to themselves. You can only say someone's a white supremacist so many times and it not be true. What did they say about Larry Elder? He's the black face of white supremacy. When you start saying stuff like that, you've already lost. You know what I mean?
Parties go at it, creates an opportunity for a revolution. That's what happened with
two uniparties.
Yeah,
We don't need a revolution. Revolution's a bad word.
What happened with the American founding fathers is that there was a uniparty of the Brits and there was the uniparty of the French.
No, that is completely.
And they went at each other, and the result was a liberation.
They were totally different countries, though.
Yeah, they were like two separate. Like they were monarch. They were monarch. They were literal uniparties. And now we have the American uniparty, the liberal economic order, and the Chinese Rus liberal. Or not liberal, but it's a uniparty.
I see what you're saying, but
and they're clashing in Ukraine, so now there's an opportunity for businessmen to step in and create something new.
I see what you are saying, like the unilateral rule of the United States clashing with other authoritarians, but Russia may be aligned with China and BRICS and everything, but when you get to the global scale, it's not a uniparty. There's greater conflict between nations.
I suppose the CCP's uniparty and the British...
Uniparty refers to, in the United States, the Democrats and Republicans that are secretly aligned and pretend to be opposed to each other.
Yeah, well, the Chinese Communist Party is literally a uniparty that runs that country.
But the United States and China are not aligned, so it's not a global uniparty. It's
it's two uniparties going at each other. So that's why I think it's an opportunity for the private sector to be like, well, you guys quibble, we're going to create something functional. And you see Elon doing it in real time.
Maybe we should call it in the United States the former uniparty because they've lost too much power at this point. You know, look, I know that they're arresting and charging people and all that stuff, but they're really failing at it every step of the way. Their ability to influence is weakening drastically.
I just
every
watched
week.
Mehdi Hassan interview Vivek Ramaswamy, and there's lag. It's MSNBC 2023, and they still have lag in their video conference.
Well, it's always been.
Yo, bro, it has. I use Zoom, there's no lag. I use Skype, there's no lag. What the hell infrastructure is this archaic dinosaur of a media monolith using that there's still freaking lag and they can't have a...
Sometimes they can't even figure out stereo and mono. Do you guys hear it in one ear and
Do you guys remember when CNN did the satellite interview from the same parking lot?
Yeah.
Two people in the same parking lot, and they did a satellite interview as if they were different places.
So the reason I brought up lag and MSNBC is because I think that's just evidence of what you're saying, that the uniparty function is crumbling. They're just so behind the times.
Oh, the ratings are in the gutter. Their influence is down, is almost gone. The fact that Elon bought Twitter and turned it into X is a huge example of this. They were using Twitter as a weapon to spy on people, to control, and to influence, and now they've lost it. It's remarkable how much they keep losing.
Yeah,
which
if
is
you get
why
a
they're
base
getting desperate and trying to
businessman.
remove Trump from the ballot and have him.
It is really interesting if you think about it. How many businessmen are actually based? There's none. Elon Musk, Donald Trump. How, most of the richest people in the world, like Bill Gates and people like that, Warren Buffett, George Soros. It's interesting. You would think there'd be more people like this, but most rich people just don't have control. That's what's awesome about capitalism. all these leftists talk trash about capitalism and it keeps the poor man poor. That's why you have some people that are based that are businessmen, right? Because or not. The capitalism is the reason why you have base businessmen, because they'll grow up poor and then they can still get rich. In a socialist society, nah, the government picks the winners and the losers. But yeah, you would think you'd have more. It's picking up though. It's really interesting.
Arrested because they know they're losing.
I'd like for the American government to win. I don't know if there's just one government.
I'd like for the American people to win.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm on that team. You know what? I will say that we're
team.
winning. The American people are winning when
the
Assange
American
is
government
freed.
Sucks.
When we have Edward Snowden back in the U.S. without fear of him going to jail for a long time. When people like Ross Ulbricht are free. Like I hear what you're saying and I want to believe it, but we're not there quite yet. We just sentenced a man to 22 years in prison, to Enrique Tarrio, which I don't agree with him, necessarily, but what did he do? He wasn't even in the Capitol building. Like, what are we doing here?
Agreement is entirely irrelevant. I'm not trying to to even discuss whether or not you agree. Actually blunts the point. It doesn't matter about
it. Does not matter. However, internet people will then be like, oh my God, you're a fan. I mean, I was already called, during my campaign, I took a picture with somebody and they were like,
revel in their contempt. Welcome their contempt. Work for it.
Absolutely.
That's hilarious.
But I'm just saying, I don't support the Proud Boys. However, you know what they've done to this guy is horrible.
Yep.
Absolutely
100%.
horrible. And if they can do it to him, they can do it to you. And that's the problem. If they're going to come after people, it's going to be people like us in this room. It's going to be people who are speaking out and saying things. And if they can put Enrique Tarrio, who 5 years ago, I didn't even know who the guy was. And all of a sudden, he deserves 22 years in prison.
It's crazy.
Well, it's going to...
They haven't done it to Trump yet, but they're trying to. If they can even, I want to say, 20% of the population thinks that Trump's a criminal. If they could do it to him when he has this huge fan base of him going to all these stadiums and everything, if they could do it to him, yeah, they could definitely do it to you, and no one's going to have their back like Trump is going to have. Spending millions of dollars on legal teams. Who can afford that? Trump can, but can you? I definitely couldn't. So, yeah, if they could go after Trump and all this and all these people, yeah, they could do it to anybody. It's scary.
Is that what it was?
He texted people to go do something. If I text you to go do something,
so
are you going to do it?
The defense said that he wasn't in contact with anyone that day. And apparently the prosecution and the media is reporting that he said, don't leave. But I don't know the context to which he said don't leave. Was it the day before they were like, hey, we're in D.C., what should we do? It's like, well, don't leave. And now they're making it seem like he was saying stay in the Capitol. The defense said he didn't contact them.
Who knows?
I will say.
It's also shady.
If it comes to the point where they begin going beyond the scope of, Owen Schroyer, who was on the ground, and they're saying his speech warrants a prison sentence. He was on the ground, and that's their pretext for the arrest. If they escalate to the point where they're coming after pundits, I would argue that out of anyone in this room, Ian's the first person they'd target.
Man,
you know why?
Because I got long hair, bro, and I'm a wizard.
This happened with when I was with Luke Rutkowski in Chicago, and the police we believe they planted drugs in the apartment we were staying at. They target people who are less likely to be able to muster up legal defense funds. So if they wanted to disrupt a show like this and make claims about rhetoric or inflammatory things, would they go after me? Well, that's probably a bad idea. It would create a huge PR press storm. It would create a huge backlash, generate tons of money, and it would create a huge legal fight. Would they go after Phil Labonte, multi-platinum recording artist? I mean, that could create a huge wave across the entertainment industry. Ian, on the other hand, you are the least likely out of anyone here to be able to muster up a strong legal defense. Granted, we would defend you. What I'm saying is, I don't think anyone's going to come and try to arrest you. I'm saying the target of who they go after is who can we get easily. Enrique Tarrio, the Proud Boys, most people don't know who he is. They're not going to look.
Yep.
They're waiting to go after Trump until they can build everything up on the ground, because they know a direct move against Trump is it makes him millions of dollars. It strengthens him. It builds his base.
Look
It's
at the
happening.
mugshot.
Yeah,
The
it's
mugshot.
literally happening. I've never been a Trump supporter, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm going for the political prisoner. Like, that's it. Who else?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes,
But
I do
first,
like Vivek also. However,
Whoops. But yeah, they built up Trump. Like I've said, I really got behind Trump. I liked Trump before, but I really super got behind him. And I was looking at other candidates. Dave Smith, I mention him a lot. Libertarian guy. He's on Joe. He's pretty notable guy. I was like Dave Smith. I wanted him. He's like Ron Paul, a younger Ron Paul. So I'm like, okay, awesome. I'm for Dave Smith. And then Trump got indicted, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, never mind.
Is he going to be the nominee?
But you look at January 6th, and they go after people you've never heard of that don't make the press, and you don't even know are in jail. And these people, try as they might, can't get the word out. There's too many of them. This is what they do, one at a time. Then they announce 2.5 years later that Owen Schroyer will be criminally charged. They're starting from the bottom and moving upwards. It's very much like that story we talk about there. eBay. You know, when eBay was started, it was yellow, and they wanted to change the background to white, but everyone got mad, so they did it one step at a time over the course of a year. They don't want to come out immediately right after January 6th and say, Donald Trump, you're under arrest. It would create chaos. They got to go for the easier low-hanging fruit, which is lower-income people who are confused. And then what do? They go to this, 37-year-old woman who was walking around the Capitol waving a flag when everyone in the building, and they say, you're going to go to prison for 8 years for a felony charge for terrorism, or you're going to write a letter saying Trump made you do it, and then we're going to say you can go home right now. Time served. And they've all. How many people have taken this deal?
How is it that any different to our regular justice system?
Well, no, but this is my point. My point is, if they go head to head with Trump rallies his base.
Sure.
If they weaken his base by getting his supporters to write letters saying Trump did this and ordered me to do it, and then use it for propaganda, knowing these people, no one will ever hear their names.
Also,
they're
think
not
of
going to be
how
in the news. They won't raise money.
It's also laid that base. Now that you've heard that all these people have been charged, if you're a layperson, you go to work every day, you got the kids, you got stuff going on, you're not really paying attention. You have no idea what these people have been charged with. You hear, I don't know how many people have been arrested. Now all of a sudden it's like an actual thing. It's like, well, all those people were arrested. Of course they had to have done something terrible.
Yep.
So it adds to that level of, they did something.
They get enough.
Of course they go for Trump because he's the orchestrator of all these people.
They get enough people to sign letters saying Trump ordered me to do it. Then they say, we have sworn witness testimony from 372 people saying Trump instructed them to do it.
Under duress, of course, but is that mentioned in the argument?
That it's part of the
jury's not going to care.
Ultimately, my point is,
these juries they're getting, these leftist juries in that Trump case. Do you think they're going to care, duress or not? They're just getting back. Bleh. That grand jury, 19 people in Atlanta, wanted to charge even more people. They're charging his lawyers and everything. So it's just like, people don't care. I had a comment on YouTube the other day. I was saying that I think the judge persuaded the jury to convince them to do this. And he's like, yeah, I agree. They were persuaded, but not by the judge, but by the evidence. This guy, it's like, go look into this stuff, dude. It's just like, if you go look into it, I actually thought that was kind of funny. But, if you go look into it, they're charging his lawyers for stuff, for giving him legal advice. That's the evidence to him. They don't care. Some people just won't look into it. He watched my video to the end, I guess, which I'm impressed by him for doing that, because it's like an 8-9 minute video, and I said that at the end. So I was like, oh, he actually watched the whole thing. That's pretty sick. But I don't know. He doesn't watch anyone else, I guess. I don't know why YouTube showed him my video or whatever, but I think it's really interesting that he said that. So maybe people are getting there. I don't know if YouTube would just show him other people that gave him more details on the thing. But I don't know. I said in the video that his lawyers were getting. So I guess some people just don't care. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait, he was in the video. I said that they were charging his lawyers, so it must be nonsense. And he watched that far, and he still is just like, okay, that's just what I'm going to say. They were convinced by the evidence. It's like, aren't you worried about them taking your attorney to jail if they try to defend you? So then the attorney's not going to really want to defend you because they might go to jail? Sounds really scary to me.
They start going after personalities. Owen Schroyer, I think, proves this point. One, they have a pretext. He was on the Capitol grounds. Shouldn't have done it. Did you go to prison for 3 months? That's ridiculous. but they're using his speech. The speech is opening the door to targeting other personalities who are online. The next person we'll likely see charged is going to be someone who maybe has 100, 200,000 followers, subscribers, and they're going to say they advocated for, incited, and instructed people to commit a crime. I'm going to tell you right now, there were people on Twitter, on YouTube, and other social platforms before January 6th who posted videos advocating for people to engage in direct conflict in
really
DC.
like
They're
violent
getting
conflict.
arrested.
No, and there's no question about it. I think these people, some of whom have instantly flipped and become total DeSantis supporters, probably flipped because they know
It's like, why would they do that?
they're next in line. After the J6s are on the ground, they're going to come out and say, you committed an act of sedition by making these videos advocating for insurrection against the United States government. Thanks for watching this clip from
I
Tim
did it properly. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, all this stuff is crazy. They always get off topic on these videos. I only play the whole things because they do bring up interesting stuff, and I kind of get distracted. But it's the title of the segment is Elon Musk averted World War III. He probably really did. Yeah, it's crazy how businesses kind of have that power, and every other business they'll just go along with governments. He actually doesn't want this. He was talking trash about Ukraine. Well, he wasn't talking trash really. If you remember a while ago, he was saying, "Hey, we should end the war," and then Ukraine just started talking trash to him. So he's like, "Fine, you don't want Starlink?" And I thought he shut it off. I don't know. I like Elon how he does that, but it's kind of messed up at the same time. I like in Ukraine, but like how he was talking recently about getting rid of the block feature, and then he's like, "I'm just gonna block everyone, and if you don't like it, leave the platform." It's like, that's a little much. But I'm glad he has a backbone like that. I guess you have to take the good with the bad. It's like how Trump is. A lot of people don't like how he what he says about people or whatever. I don't know. I don't really care. But a lot of people say, I'm starting to sound like Trump, but a lot of people say that, but I don't say it. Not me. I personally don't say it. But anyway, a lot of people say that about Trump, about how they don't like him, but he has good policies. No new wars, So that's how Elon is, in my opinion. He's not perfect, definitely far from it. But, he does some good stuff. And this was definitely one of them. Go in for this. They shouldn't be. And again, SpaceX is a contractor for the U.S. Could you imagine? They're technically a military contractor because of rocketry, and then they do military missions to outer space. They launch satellites to outer space, military satellites. So it's just like, yeah, that's not going to look good. They're going to put it all over Chinese, Russian, all foreign media. U.S. contractor, supply, I'm surprised they don't do that already. They probably do, but would just be another one because of the intelligence. They probably do that with intelligence also. But then direct military thing like this, it would not look good. And then his business, it's his business. He doesn't want that look on him. He wants to go and probably do Russian satellites to space, right? It's just going to fund his business and get him to Mars quicker. It's a huge goal of his too. Yep, and I just don't think he wants war. I think he hates war like normal people do. But when you get in government this long, it's really interesting. Like these military leaders, they've seen so much war, and they're just used to it. Yeah, it's messed up. I like business people like Elon Musk. This is the capitalist wave so long ago, and the government's taken over so much in the last 100 years, ever since Woodrow Wilson, piece of garbage. In 1913, did the Federal Reserve and did the income tax and everything. Worst president. People say Biden's the worst president. No, he isn't. I would say Woodrow Wilson and then FDR and then probably Lyndon Johnson. Those people have just really messed it up. FDR, a lot of people don't know, had socialism in the country during World War II. That stuff is insane. They had these little price books, flippable price books that had every price of every popular item. And that was the law. And then if he put in strict restrictions from when factories could work And they would go into the factory districts, the industrial districts, and bang down the doors if they found people working after like 10 p.m. or whatever it was. Yeah, it's insanity. So yeah, they're very bad people. But if like in the good old days back in the 1820, it's been a long time. Business people could stand up to the government. They probably could now. They just choose not to. Like, look at what Elon Musk does, So, yeah, it's really interesting. I hope in this new age of tech, you're probably going to get a lot of new money in there, which is awesome. Because then people that do get these companies can really, maneuver more. And like the social media, I don't know if it was with Twitter, but like Facebook and Google, the government gave them money, like deep money, like CIA contracts and stuff like that. But that's what happened with Elon Musk. I'm surprised he's more supportive of this. I think he just got rich and he's the richest guy in the world. And he's like, screw it. I'll just do what I want. I'm the richest guy in the world. And I'm a huge government asset. So what are you going to do to me? And I guess that is what's unique about Elon Musk is they need him to go to the moon and everything. So it's like, if you get rid of him, that's not going to really work out. You know what I mean? So they kind of need him, but then so he could just go against him. He's like, what are you going to do? I don't know. That could be the case why Elon Musk is doing this, where Zuckerberg and Google and everything, because Elon Musk kind of got money too, but that was kind of more direct. So Facebook, they got direct money from the CIA, and so did, Google was kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff about Google, but that would take a long time to explain all that. But with like what I'm referring to is like the contracts that they had, the contracts with CIA and Facebook. It's rumored like they just got totally funded by the CIA. So yeah, very interesting stuff. But what I meant about the SpaceX thing is SpaceX, they also got contracts, but that was more like NASA. It's more of like a product. It wasn't like direct funding. Does that make sense? But, it's kind of the same. I guess Elon Musk just doesn't care. Like I was just saying, hey, you need us. If they took out like Sergey Brin or Larry Page, the founders of Google, Elon Musk is a huge celebrity. And if he's like a Steve Jobs character, the guys from Google, not so much. I guess they were like 10 years ago, but not anymore. Elon stays in the spotlight, which makes him kind of like, okay. Well, and he's, again, really unique. He, like this stuff he does with SpaceX, how much money he has. So maybe he just has this thing where he's just like, yeah, the government helped me out. But, but it wasn't so direct. It was more normal. Like NASA gives a lot of people contracts like that. The CIA, not so much. Not for like this type of stuff that Google was trying to and Facebook were trying to do. SpaceX is more of, they do space. Who does that? How are you going to get another one of those? Right? So very interesting stuff, but I will leave that one there. Let's move on to the next story. Biden ordered political hit on RFK Jr. Here's a clip.
Joe Biden's just ordered a political hit on RFK Jr. Biden, who spent his whole career plagiarizing the Kennedys, now wants a Kennedy silenced. RFK Jr. is saying the DNC has just fixed the primary to make it impossible for him to win.
They've made rules that if anybody campaigns in Iowa or any candidate sets foot in the state of Iowa or sets foot in the state of New Hampshire, then none of the votes that are cast for that candidate will be tallied. In other words, any delegate that I win in New Hampshire or Iowa would go instead to the president.
So he can't even go there.
And now they're trying to change it so that if I campaign in New Hampshire, that none of the votes cast for me in Georgia will count. I would have to win almost 80%.
Wow.
Of all of the states in order to beat President Biden, even if he only wins 20%.
Democrats love democracy, except you can't vote in Iowa or New Hampshire.
Right.
RFK Jr. can shake hands, kiss babies, and hold town halls for 6 months and walk away from New Hampshire and Iowa with zilch, not a single delegate. The DNC is giving RFK the Bernie treatment, Remember?
Yeah.
Handpicked superdelegates put Bernie in his place the second he became a threat to Hillary. The DNC designed a system to deny insurgents a shot, and RFK needs to swallow the sleaze or...
I love how he makes such a good point. Democrats are all for democracy. Right. Look what they do in just their primary. They just show themselves. People don't, like, Democrats are starting to do more research. The left is dying, and this is why. This is insane. I've watched this video yet. So I'm just shocked. I'm like, oh, wait, what? This is insanity.
The party is going to bankrupt them.
There's some really wild things that they're now considering, including forcing me to actually pay for the primaries. And their logic is that they don't need a primary because they already have a candidate.
The Democrat Party's decided it's Biden or bust. But the media...
Yeah, I guess so. And people are talking about Gavin Newsom. If they want Gavin Newsom, what this is backfire? Well, they want to, I don't know. This is weird. So what I would guess they would probably do with Gavin Newsom is wait till after the primary, which doesn't end until August of next year. Then the DNC votes maybe for the person. Oh man, this stuff is so shady. It's insane.
Keeping their options open. Biden's poll numbers are so poor, it's forcing the press to flirt. Gavin, are you interested?
Filing deadlines haven't passed. President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate?
Well, I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up, and the filing deadlines are quickly coming to pass. And I think we need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run, and looking forward to getting him reelected. I think there's been so much wallowing in the last few months and bringing in this respect, but we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
But you hear these calls privately. What do you tell these donors who are wallowing in this?
Time to move on. Let's go.
Looks like Newsom's a good soldier. There's a succession plan, and they say they're sticking to it. It's Kamala for now. Dennis Kucinich, RFK Jr.'s campaign manager, is here. Dennis, what is going on with the DNC?
Well, I can tell you what's going on with RFK Jr., and that is that Mr. Kennedy wants to make sure that every Democrat who votes in a primary, their votes will count, that they'll be counted, and that if you win a primary, that you win the delegates. I mean, I know that sounds like a novel idea, but as Mr. Kennedy has pointed out, the DNC has arranged it so they can put extra delegates in, stuff the ballot box in a primary, and effectively, even if Mr. Kennedy were to get 60, 70%, hand the election to Mr. Biden. Now, you know, this is, you could call it a heads we win, tails you lose approach.
So and, even if Biden loses the
American
primary to RFK Jr., the DNC will still coronate Joe Biden the nominee?
Well, the structure is set up to do that. And one
so
must understand that.
What's the point?
What, Mr. Kennedy has been pointing out. I mean, you take this simple idea that
why even have a primary? What's the point?
You should win New Hampshire, you should get the delegates. But the DNC says because Mr. Kennedy campaigns in the first in the nation state, where that's what New Hampshire's about, no, his votes won't count. I mean, what in the world's that about? I want everyone to think about that. You can win, and then they don't let your votes count. I mean, this is the way that the Democratic Party is engaging in self-defeating activities. For example, Jesse.
But they're trying to save democracy.
New Hampshire has 4 electoral votes. Does anyone think that New Hampshire is going to go Democratic with these kind of shenanigans played by the DNC? Does anyone think Iowa
good question.
will go Democratic when the DNC has switched to from caucus to a mail-in ballot with the votes counted by a private firm hired by the state?
I mean, you sound like a conspiracy theorist, Dennis. I mean, we went through a whole year and a half of, every vote must count, the integrity of the election, and this is like Soviet Russia. Do they get that?
Well, you know, look, I don't know. I'm a Democrat. Mr. Kennedy's a Democrat. We just want to make sure all the Democrats who vote actually have their votes counted.
Yeah,
and this is
Republicans
really
too.
Why on September 14th,
yeah, exactly.
on September 14th, we hope to be at the DNC to make our appeal to the delegates, so they understand, Rules Committee, so they understand how serious this is and how it's being viewed from outside the DNC, how the American people are looking at this and saying, hey, don't ruin an election just because you're afraid of one candidate. I mean, the truth is that
they've already done
Kennedy Jr. is the only Democrat who would have any chance of defeating Mr. Trump in the election.
Oh, is that so? All right. Well, we might never know if this system is in place.
We're not.
Dennis Kucinich, thanks for joining us on Primetime, and you have a great weekend.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
The left is murdering themselves. Why are they doing this? It's insane. They're so scared because if someone comes up like this and that's against the establishment, that's how you always know if someone's actually establishment or not. You could tell, because people are like, well, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's anti-establishment. I don't know. He's the Republican, so it's different. But Ron DeSantis, I guess he's a Republican, so it's different. But it is interesting. They don't just really rail against them. When they go and do this type of stuff, again, it is on the Republican side versus the Republican side. But look at Ron Paul in 2008 and 2012. Although that was a long time ago, to be fair, and there's probably different people in there, more American first people. All right, so I kind of answered my own question and argued against myself because I'm like, okay, there probably is. Maybe I'm like, why aren't the RNC going after all these people? I don't know. Trump just kind of... Well, I don't know. Larry Elder, though. Larry Elder, you could tell he's anti-establishment. They won't even let him on the debate stage, and they disqualify his polls and all of that stuff. So Larry Elder is, you could tell, definitely not establishment. And you could tell Bernie Sanders, love him or hate him, you could tell he's not establishment because look at what they do. Ron Paul, you could tell he's not establishment. Look what they do. RFK Jr., love him or hate him. I don't hate him. I'm not policy-wise. I'm not a big fan. But you can tell, anti-establishment. If someone gets in there that's at least anti-establishment, I'll take it, right? And you can definitely tell Donald Trump. I didn't even bring him up, but he's definitely anti-establishment, obviously. I mean, look what they're doing to get him and his supporters and everything. So it's really interesting how this is going forward. They're just going to try to push RFK out. And like I've said in a lot of videos recently, the left is dying because of this type of stuff. People are going away from it because of this. Like this guy he just had on, he's just said, I'm a Democrat and I'm trying to fight for RFK. What's going to happen when they just shut him out? A lot of people say that's why Trump won in 2016. I don't agree with it, but they were saying that a lot of Bernie Sanders voters just didn't vote because like Hillary pushed them out and they saw shenanigans, so they just didn't vote. But who knows? Maybe that's true. So yeah, this stuff they see it with Bernie twice. They did it in 2020. Also, a lot of people say so. They did it to him twice, and now they're doing it to RFK Jr. Enough's enough. They're like trying to get a landslide victory for Trump, it seems. I don't think they really are, but it's just all backfiring. This is what's happening. People are just fed up with all the migration in these big cities. And then now this, it's just going to be like enough's enough. I'm just not going to vote, or I'm just going to vote for Trump. Even if I don't like him or his policies, at least they'll get rid of this stuff. They're not going to go after my lawyer for giving me legal advice, for instance. People are just going to be like, enough's enough. I'm sick of this. I'm done with it. Even if I don't like the guy. Like if RFK Jr. Was the nominee, for example, and this is what they're doing to him, and he somehow landed it. And then if it was him versus like Mike Pence, I'll just take RFK Jr. because at least I know he's anti-establishment. He'll go against the establishment, even though I don't agree with him like on most political things. I'm still like, well, you could tell he's anti-establishment, so I'd go with him over like a Mike Pence, who is establishment, even if I don't agree with him. And I think a lot of people on the left might start thinking that. I don't agree with him policy-wise, but he's going to get rid of the deep state most likely. He's going to make sure I keep my attorney-client privilege. He's going to go and make a precedent for if you go after people like this, like Fani Willis did, he's going to prosecute them. That's better for the country. Even if I want higher taxes or want UBI, people might start thinking, well, that's the way to get the person that's actually going to do it, because at least the precedent will be set where there's fair elections. And if we really do want to grassroots something, we can do it. And they're not just going to cheat people. So I think it's just every step of the way. They're making missteps. They're trying way too hard. They're panicking. They're way too scared. Like I said the other day, when someone panics and they're drowning, it just leads to catastrophe. Someone will try to save you. They start pushing them down. They start holding, oh, no. They don't just say, okay, just rest and just, okay, thank you for saving me and go to shore. No, they'll push everyone else down. They're pushing everything down. And then it just leads to catastrophe. So it seems like that's what they're doing. They're panicking so hard that it's just going to lead to catastrophe. But, just let it play out. Like I always tell people, just be calm. Try to convince people if you're a Trump supporter or believe in anything that I'm saying. Try to share this with people or talk to them about this same type of issue, right? And slowly convince them. Don't get mad. Don't get wild because we're winning no matter what. I want to say no matter what, but we're trending upwards no matter what. I should put it that way. And if we just stay calm and then these guys just keep doing this stuff to themselves, they're drowning themselves, pushing everyone else under that's trying to help them. Well, maybe that'll end up being a good thing. But with that, I will move on to the next story. Bill Gates buys $95 million in Bud Light stock and calls for Sorry about that. Bill Gates buys $95 million in Bud Light stock, causing calls for boycotts to increase even further. This is hilarious. Let's play a clip.
We're going to talk about that parallel economy. Bill Gates bets on Bud Light's comeback as tech mogul buys 1.7 million shares of disgraced brand's parent company. It's serious that the Daily Mail put 3 L's in million.
Oh, my.
After the Dylan Mulvaney partnership. The Microsoft founder acquired the Bud Light shares via his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation trust during the second quarter of this year. The shares hold a market value of approximately $95 million, reports TipRanks. My friends, we stand before us a great opportunity. If we convince everyone not to drink Bud Light and double down on the boycott, not only will you teach a woke corporation a lesson, a corporation that keeps doubling down on this messaging despite the backlash, you will take money away from Bill Gates. The shares that he purchased will go down in value and he will lose money. Granted.
Yeah. It's true, probably not a lot of money, but I think it's hilarious. Bill Gates steps in here. He's like, I'm going to save Bud Light. And then people are like, oh, wait. Now people are like, Bill Gates owns it? Yeah, I'm not drinking that. Screw Bill Gates. Why would you want to give him more money, left or right? Right? It's just like, no, okay. I wonder if any leftists really, I don't know, the left supports Bill Gates now for whatever reason. But yeah, it would be really funny if they were like, oh, people are like, hey, Bill Gates owns it. This is even worse. That's my take on it, right? It's like, oh man, don't support this. Bill Gates owns it.
It's only $95 million, and if this drops by a couple bucks, he's going to go down to like 90. He's not really going to blink. The dude's worth $100+ billion. But whatever. One can dream.
It's a victory for you, not a loss for him.
But this is it. Obviously, I'm not surprised to see this from Bill Gates. This, to me, seems more like Bill Gates is trying to save the stock price of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
This purchase is going to stabilize the price to a certain degree, or perhaps even create the perception it's recovering in an attempt to manipulate people who don't care about the culture wars into buying the stocks again or the shares, and then that will cause more people to want to be involved. I say, don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. I'm not going to give you financial advice. I'm just saying, from a cultural perspective, we have to double down on the Bud Light story once again. The fact that Bill Gates just bought a large portion of it is all the more reason to absolutely reject Bud Light as a product.
Yeah, Bill Gates.
What percentage did he get?
Don't give him more money.
It's microscopic in terms of Anheuser's. What is it? They say Bud Light shares. That's probably AB InBev.
InBev, yeah.
Stock prices dropped.
It's shares in InBev, not necessarily in Bud Light. Or in Budweiser.
Yeah, they say Light stock, but I'm pretty sure that it's actually shares in Anheuser, which is AB InBev.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have anything to worry about. A lot of people are still not buying Bud Light.
See if you can get Bud Light to hire the Dasani guy, because nobody buys Dasani water. Then we just get them to lose more money. You buy Dasani water?
Yes.
We found the one person.
I love Dasani water.
Have you ever seen those pictures of like Florida after a hurricane, like
I just confirmed real quick. Yeah, he bought Anheuser-Busch InBev. That's what Bill Gates bought.
All the water's gone except for the Dasani water is all just sitting there.
Sometimes,
You're
like,
the one guy.
Yes,
Well, they like
I
the
love
weird
it.
stuff in it, don't they?
It's good. I like Dasani and I like
Dasani
Aquafina.
tastes funny.
I bought both of them. I bought 1 pack of Dasani, 1 pack of Aquafina.
Well, but let's talk about this parallel economy, right? So outside of what Bill Gates may want to do, you've got Conservative Dad's ultra right beer. This is Seth Weathers. We've got a bunch of his beer. We ordered it. It's good stuff, and they're doing sales by the truckload. It's crazy. Apparently, they're doing ridiculously well.
I don't know if this was just a joke by James O'Keefe, but after he did like the Della Mulvaney thing, he went and talked to them in an elevator, him or whatever. They talked to it in an elevator, and then he went into a thing right after, and then he was like, "Hey, do you carry O'Keefe beer? I haven't tried it or anything, but I haven't looked into it. But I wonder if James O'Keefe has a beer. Look into it. That might be a good one."
You take a look at the failures of these companies when they get woke and go broke, and in this story, we have the amazing story of a young man who had one dream, and that was to sell pancakes. That man sits before us today.
That was my American dream. All I ever wanted was freedom and pancakes.
So let's talk about your pancakes, though, because this is a big component of building this parallel economy. I want to say, I was personally deeply offended when they took Aunt Jemima away. Because when I was little, we had Aunt Jemima all the time. I'd go downstairs, I'd grab the box, I would never follow the instructions. I would just pour the mix into the cup. I'd mix it with a little bit of milk or something, and then just throw it in the pan with too much butter, so it got fried and ridiculous and delicious. And then I grew up, and like we're not racist. My family, we liked the brand. We had Aunt Jemima syrup, and then one day they decided it was not okay for anybody to smile and look up to an iconic figure on a product that was black. Uncle Ben, Aunt Jemima, and Mrs. Butterworth.
For
even black.
reason.
They took anyone who was black off of products.
Land O'Lakes lady.
There was a guy on Cream of Wheat too. It's a black guy on the Cream of Wheat.
That stuff was good.
They took him off the box. They took him off of his product also. What is that guy's name on the Cream of Wheat?
Oh, that guy was awesome.
Yeah.
Frank L. White.
Yeah, they took this guy off the box also.
But
like I said earlier, it's insane because these same people who were upset that a black face was on a food box are the same people who say black people need more representation. But if you go into the grocery store now, you don't see any black people on any food boxes at all.
So Mr. Clean,
this is reverse racism. But then you left the white guy there.
Racism. You got Chef Boyardee.
Yeah,
I can see what he means by reverse racism, though, because people are like, "Hey, we need more black people in movies. Snow White needs to be not white." But then, like, you can't have food products with black people on it. It's all broken. It's all so broken, and none of it makes any sense.
Still there? The Quaker Oats guy, he's still there?
Quaker Oats is happy as... He's happy. Yeah. He is happy as hell. He's happy as hell. He's like, hell yeah.
That's a religious thing, too. He's a Quaker.
Yeah. And
this is what bothered me is that, like, imagine you go to a restaurant every day and there you go for breakfast before work and there's Aunt Jemima making your pancakes, smiling. She's a good friend. She's always there. You know that when you're having a rough day, you show up and she's got a smile on her face and delicious pancakes. And then one day the boss is like, we got rid of her because we can't have a black person working here. It's racist. That's basically what they did to the iconic images of these characters.
It makes no sense. It's racist because she's like, what? That's also broken.
Just not like
all your black people because it's racist. Wait, what is it? Action? I don't. It's just all just so backwards. It's like how the left wants to go back to segregation. They're like, oh no, black. We need to have black only this, black only awards, black only business. It's like you want to go back to what you people 50 years ago that were actually not racist. What? It's just so insane.
How were you losing sleep at night because this black woman was on a pancake box? Like, who was sitting up at night, rolling over in bed, can't sleep, and that's bothering you?
Well, check it out. The family got mad.
Yes.
Because they were getting paid, I guess.
Oh, no.
Multiple women have portrayed Aunt Jemima in history, and that's
this is the craziest thing I heard. They're like, so they're claiming that Aunt Jemima is like some slave figure. Yeah. And they're saying that white people get a kick out of this black woman making them pancakes. It's like
wild.
She's like a house slave in the home of in the home of white people. So they really didn't want white people having this black character on a food box in their cabinet.
It's the
Was
same.
she a slave?
No, she was not a slave, but they said she's a.
And it's funny too because then people want all black people in movies and stuff. They don't think the same type of rhetoric. I don't get it. It's funny but sick at this. It makes no sense.
Person.
But they're saying that she is like a slave figure, like a house slave. So that's what they were trying to claim. But it's ridiculous. I have not met one person who wanted this woman off of the box. I want to meet the people.
Yeah.
I want to meet these people.
I want to meet Jemima herself.
And then you went and put yourself on.
Then exactly. And listen, like Aunt Jemima, anytime that I had Aunt Jemima, I was extremely happy. And and I was introduced to Aunt Jemima when I was growing up. When I was up in foster care, one of my foster homes, all they bought was Aunt Jemima pancakes. So I was introduced to her, and I just fell in love with that mix. So and every time I see that box, it brings back memories from childhood. And then they took it away. So I was like, what in the hell?
You should see if the company will sell you the trademark.
The thing about
they would never do that.
They've abandoned it. You might be able to just take it.
That's like you were talking about with the logo for independent.
Yeah, so we've got
they are still using it. Now they're not using her face, but they're using the name on the new box.
It's Pearl Milling Company now.
No, they're if you see the box at the very bottom, it says formerly Aunt Jemima.
Yes.
Aunt Jemima, same taste as Aunt Jemima. So they're still using the name.
Wrong, man.
But you still might have a legal challenge to the trademark because they've changed it. So we have this right here. This is Tim Cast Skateboard Company, which I announced several months ago, and Independent has no challenge. This symbol right here is it used to be the Independent Skateboard Trucks logo, and they abandoned it because people said it looks like a German Iron Cross or something, and it's racist or whatever. So they apologized. No, we're not racist. They got rid of that logo, and so I said, okay, then it's abandoned IP. Yeah. It's now public domain. I'm using it. So
I could try. And one thing that all Americans, most of us have in common: white people, black people, Hispanics. All Americans, most Americans love pancakes. And if they don't love pancakes, they love waffles. And that's one thing that will bring people together is food.
Pancakes, waffles, or French toast for you?
Pancakes.
Pancakes.
Do you use different kinds of flour?
Do I use different
almond
kind of
flour? Do you ever mess with
I do not have almond flour, but I am coming out with a vegan mix.
How's that work? What's the ingredients?
No buttermilk?
It's going to be vanilla bean. And then I have a keto mix that'll come out soon. And also I have gluten-free at the moment.
Oh, what's the gluten-free?
The gluten-free?
How do you make it? Yeah.
Man, it's so many different ingredients, but yeah, I I need to read all the ingredients.
Yeah. I wonder what the flour is.
Yeah. But it's and then I have like different flavors. I have like blueberry, apple cinnamon bun.
Oh wow.
Chocolate chip.
Oh, what was the other one?
Chocolate chip. So I have chocolate chip and sweet potato mix, pumpkin spice. I have a whole bunch of different mixes, but I need to find out. The gluten-free stuff is gluten-free certified, so anything I say on here, I have to get it right.
Yeah,
because they'll be breathing down my back.
Gluten-free is where it's at.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Well, I'm not sure how I feel about that pumpkin spice one, but the rest of it,
Yeah.
You're in what do you say, 38 stores?
Yeah, so I'm in the Sedano supermarket. It's in South Florida.
How do we get Cousin T's nationwide in every supermarket?
Oh man, getting these. Some of these
gotta get more publicity.
And and this is the tough thing here. So Cousin T's, now people can get it on cousintees.com right now. So I ship everywhere, but I'm a business, and what it costs me to make my pancake mix, the big brands are selling it for there's the price that they're selling it at is the price that I'm buying it at, because
Makes
they
it hard
buy
to compete, that's for sure.
millions of boxes to drive their costs down. I don't have the money to do that.
Right.
So in the grocery store, they like to mark up the products 30 to 40%.
Yep.
Well, my product is already already
Small batch
expensive.
premium.
Yeah, compared to, and it's a gourmet product too, so it is more expensive compared to the bigger brands. So
you get what you pay for,
you
though.
put my stuff on the shelf, it's going to be way more expensive because the grocery stores mark it up 30 or 40%. That's what I'm dealing with too. And also, Walmart is so woke. Target is woke. And they, like I said, anytime I try to get into these stores, they most likely they look at my social media account. They say, no, we can't take it. They don't return my emails. They don't return my calls.
Have you thought of calling them racist?
In all seriousness, thanks for watching this clip from the.
That he might as well. Maybe they are. But that's really funny. These guys went off on quite a tangent though about Bud Light. Where'd they go with this? Bud Light, I think it's hilarious. Like I said earlier, Bud Light, people are like, no, why would we even want to buy it now? Bill Gates owns it. But yeah, this is kind of a good point. That's why I played the whole clip, is they went off on quite a tangent, but they make a good point. Buy stuff that you agree with. You know, Public Square, Tim Pool talks about that a lot. Go on there, buy stuff that from people you agree with. Don't buy, whatever they were calling it, you know, the new company and all this stuff. Don't do that stuff. Go and buy from like people like this. Yeah, it'll be a little bit more expensive now, but like this guy was just saying, like you go and sorry, I forget his name, but you go get it from him, and you pay a higher price now, but eventually it'll go down as he gets more people to buy from him. And now you have a company that's not going to go into a bunch of woke stuff, and they're not going to care about this. And it sections it off. It's really interesting over the last 100 years since the income tax started that everything is consolidated. And now with the internet, and people can like just go and free. They try to gatekeep the internet in America with SOPA and all that. Then Trump reversed it. It's the best thing Trump did. They tried to regulate the government, the internet, and so what it was is like SOPA. They were trying to regulate, like in say that Comcast or whatever would be responsible if they broke laws, if any of the traffic that went through it broke laws. So then Trump reversed it. Because if they would have done that, they would have just shut down everything. That was the theory that people were saying that we're against SOPA. They were like, well, eventually wouldn't Comcast just go in and, for example, any ISP like Comcast, Verizon, whatever, they'll just go in and just only let you get to YouTube or Netflix or the biggest services because they're going to get in a bunch of legal trouble. And then if you want to have it on Comcast or whatever, you're going to have to pay a price because of, like, for insurance or whatever, in case they get taken to court because of something that you put in there. So everything's going to get selective and it'll ruin the internet. Trump got rid of that. Go in for that. And now because they're trying to get Trump and everything, and I guess different issues 5 years later or whatever, they haven't tried to bring it back. Thank God for that. But they got like the entire rest of the world on internet regulations. Look at the EU and all this, that type of stuff. You know, it's the EU. I mean, if they don't have it that bad, is what it could have become with SOPA, but it could have. You know, you fast forward, it could. I'm sorry, it could. In 20 years, who knows how it'll be. But yeah, so these type of companies, like they're talking about, buy from them, and these people aren't going to get into woke stuff. They're not going to get into lobbying for bad stuff. Just buy from them. People are starting to really wake up from that. Don't buy Disney Plus. Let them go out of business. Disney would never go out of business. Just so you're like, oh no, Disney, I wanted my kids to watch like some of the old stuff. Fair enough. But someone's going to buy off Disney's assets eventually, and you'll still be able to watch it. And the new stuff, the new stuff is just terrible. I just heard that they're trying to redo Pirates of the Caribbean. This video is all over the place on this topic, but I'm going to go with it. They're trying to do Pirates of the Caribbean they're redoing all of it. They're trying to make it super woke. Johnny Depp's not going to be involved. He declined the new one, probably because he thought it was going to be really woke and he didn't want to be part of it. So that's probably what happened there. There's no confirmation on that, but I'm guessing. But that's probably how that went. So just buy from stuff that you like. Public Square, check that app out. It's free. And they talk about how, or they show you conservative businesses that are going to be like anti-woke. So go that way. But Bill Gates, to sum it all up, Bill Gates buying this, I don't think it's going to save the stock at all. I think it's just going to get worse. He's going to lose money. And then who wants to be dealing with Bill Gates? Anyways, he has like a negative connotation to his name now anyways because of the population control and all the COVID stuff. So, yeah. Stay away from Bud Light. It'll just help. Even if you don't care about all of the thing with Dylan Mulvaney, well, now Bill Gates is trying to save it, cost him money, and show people that you can't just go and, if you're a billionaire like this, go and just shove a little bit of money into it. Why not just buy Bud Light if you want it so bad? Bill Gates, you have the money. When it's this foundation too, this Bill Melinda Gates Foundation that people donate to. That's what he's spending it on, is this. Donate to a real charity. I don't think anyone actually donates to that thing, though, right? Probably not. But anyways, yeah, screw Bud Light. That's the message of this video. You know, who cares? Who cares about Bud Light? Let's move on to the next story, though. I feel like I'm rambling on about nothing. So we're going to talk about something new and interesting. Jimmy Fallon canceled by his own leftist staff in complete meltdown. Here's a clip.
Of all the late night hosts out there, I would say that Jimmy Fallon is perhaps the least annoying, the least hated.
The least political.
Basically canceled by his fellow late night show hosts for daring
hosting Donald Trump, yeah.
To allow Donald Trump a platform. And
he like rubbed his hair, if you don't remember, Jimmy Fallon did. He like rubbed his hair and he humanized Trump is what they said. And then they took away his Emmy nomination for that year. And then he came out and groveled and apologized. So, you know, that I got to give him a flack for that. But yeah, overall, he seems like the least political and he just doesn't care. He just wants to be a comedian, you know, that, and all the rest of the guys just they're so political. Late night.
Coincidentally, this hit piece comes out on him. Now, I'm not saying they're directly related, but it sure seems pretty curious. Now, any one of these late night show hosts are probably complete psychopaths, and I'm 100% happy and fine that they get dragged for it. But you see this chaos comedy and crying rooms inside Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. Now, this is basically a cut and paste of what they did to Ellen DeGeneres, probably, I don't know, was it last year or something?
I don't know
like
about
that
the Ellen
this time.
DeGeneres thing.
And it was particularly tense days on the set of The Tonight Show with Fallon. The host, known for his warm and congenial presence on screen, was acting especially dismissive and irritable during production meetings, a former longtime employee tells Rolling Stone. And he stumbled through rehearsal in front of a studio audience who typically sits in on rehearsals for the late night show. Employees who spoke to Rolling Stone about their experience working on The Tonight Show say it's common knowledge that behind the scenes there are good Jimmy days, where Fallon's wit and charm and creativity are on full display, and bad Jimmy days. This was a...
Yeah, maybe. Or I mean, that could be true. Or maybe some days you have good and bad days. And he's like, this is what I have to go and do and rehearse and everything. I have to go and tell these jokes. But then again, they hire him. He hires the producer. I mean, he must have some sway, but it's really hard to say. It really is. On The Tonight Show, it's just like, did they choose your producer? Okay, you could be on The Tonight Show. But, I mean, Johnny Carson days and Jay Leno days, maybe they had some sway. But it's like nowadays, Jimmy probably just has to put up with this stuff. It's like, oh, these are my writers. This is awful. So maybe that's why he has good and bad days. I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating, but that's a good theory.
Bad Jimmy day. They say Fallon seemed to be confused during rehearsal on that day when he crossed out jokes on a piece of paper he was holding, riffed with the audience for a bit, then quizzically looked back down at the same sheet of paper. He couldn't remember. He had just crossed it out himself, the employee says. I was like, oh my God, he seems drunk. He doesn't know what he's doing. This
Maybe
could be
he doesn't
awful.
know what to say.
This could be
He's just
The end of the show right here. Another staffer says that they witnessed the incidents from a live studio feed in their audience, too. A lot of these staffs, too, by the way, are full of far leftists. And so when you surround yourself with these weirdos, this is exactly the type of behavior you get. You have an off day, and then they run to the Rolling Stone.
To be fair, though, like I was just saying, though, he might not choose the staff. He might just be one of the staff, essentially. He's the big guy on the staff, but he wants to host the Tonight Show. He probably gets paid a lot of money. So, yeah, he might just not even have a choice.
According to two current and 14 former employees, the Tonight Show had been a toxic workplace for years. For outside the boundaries of what had been considered normal in the high-pressure world of late-night TV, they say the ugly environment behind the scenes starts at the top with Fallon's erratic behavior and trickled down to its ever-changing leadership team's 9 showrunners in the past 9 years who seemingly don't know how to say no to Jimmy. Former employees described the Tonight Show as a tense and glum atmosphere, with some people alleging they were belittled and intimidated by their bosses, including Fallon himself. Employees describe being afraid of Fallon's outbursts and unexpected inconsistent behavior. Many of those staffers voiced their concerns through HR complaints, but problems at the Tonight Show persisted. Well, I mean...
So, again, this could just be bad jokes. I mean, imagine you have these writers and your job is to go in there and tell these jokes, and you're like, I'm the one who's the face of these jokes. I don't know. You know, I try to be a really nice guy to everybody, but at the same time, if someone else was choosing my staff... And these are the jokes I have to tell, and they're just horrendous. It makes sense you'd have good and bad days. Maybe, again, like the writers just have good and bad days, and that's just, they're kind of projecting. They bring in bad jokes, and then he has a bad day on the bad jokes. Are they going to talk about that? And by the way, I just looked it up on a side note. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon makes $16 million annually. Would you go and give that up? You know, a lot of people would. But he's in the entertainment industry as for been for a long time. He's on SNL and everything. Could you imagine making $16 million a year for probably only working a few hours a day? So he's just like, okay, whatever. But then when he has to tell these jokes, like, I can just write all these jokes and be way funnier. But that's not what I get paid to do. I get paid to be Jimmy Fallon, and this is what I have to put up with. It's like, that could definitely be the case for him. You know, so I could see how that's irritating, and he would just go off on people, even if he is a nice, genuinely nice guy. It's like you can only push someone so far, and then it makes sense why he would start getting drunk all the time too. He's like, oh, I just need to get drunk to get through this because, oh my goodness. These jokes are awful. It's like, what did I get myself into? And he has a contract, and he's probably like, that's $16 million a year. That's a lot of money. I could see why he would not want to give that up. And I don't think he's like a based guy or anything. He's not like a Republican, so he's probably like okay with the leftist stuff. But it's like the jokes aren't even funny. It's like, fine, I'll push your leftist agenda, but at least make the jokes funny. And again, the more I think about it, he probably doesn't even choose the staff. So he's just stuck with these guys, and it's like it makes sense he would, be prone to outbursts and drinking and stuff if this is what he has to deal with, because it sounds like a nightmare. And again, you don't want to give it up. It's not like, oh, go get hired for something else. It's like $16 million a year. Jimmy Fallon was on SNL, and he's done movies here and there after, in between that and the Tonight Show, but he's not getting $16 million a year for making movies. He might make $1 to $2 million at best. $16 million. He probably gets bonuses for that one Universal show. He has Universal Studios in Florida. He has like a ride or something, an experience. I've heard about it. I don't really know what it is exactly. But then he probably gets bonuses for that type of stuff too. So it's just like, an endorsement. So he's going to lose $20 million plus a year. It's like, I'll just say the bad jokes. But then it's just like at some certain times we're like, you're ruining my legacy. Get out of here. The more I think about it again, he probably can't even fire these people. So he's just going nuts. But let's dive into more of the details.
I would say that you hire a bunch of like leftoid
and again, I don't think that's
glass
his choice.
People, and this is what you get.
It's probably not his choice. That's why he's so mad.
Health was impacted, and it was commonplace to hear people joking about wanting to end themselves.
So dramatic.
What? I mean, I don't know. The
get a new
producers felt
job.
pressure translated down on the employees. People that worked under them felt the pressure.
They're not
If you made
Fallon
one
getting
mistake, you were
$16
gonna be
million a year.
gone, and you would be easily replaced. You have all these NBC pages in the building who are ready, willing, and waiting to take your job. Yeah, I mean, I guess nobody told Jimmy. Everybody walked on eggshells, especially showrunners. Another former employee says, you never knew which Jimmy you were going to get and when he was going to throw a hissy fit. Look at how many showrunners went through so quickly. We know they didn't last long. Employees said they had nightmares related to work and were in constant state of fear. One former employee says they had their first anxiety attack while working on the show and were put on anti-anxiety medication for the first time. Another employee says they felt physical ramifications of declining mental health.
That is wild. That is wild. Antipsychotic medication or get a different job. Could you work at a job? I'm just curious. I couldn't do it. Could you work at a job where you were so stressed out that you're considering getting these SSRIs or whatever that eventually could make you go nuts? Or would you just find another job? Even if it's high paying and everything, why can't you throw that on your resume and use that for leverage? Right? It's just like, that's how dramatic it is. I would never, ever, if my job was that bad, I would find a new job. I wouldn't start taking medication, as they call it, to try to get through it. It's like, no, get a new job. Because that stuff you get hooked on for life. It causes all this brain damage. The withdrawal effects are wild. They are wild. So, yeah, stay away from that stuff. And if they really had that hard of a time, they would have found another job. Maybe not, but they should have. So, I just can't even imagine that scenario where I would be like, okay, I'm going to go on antipsychotics, or I could, how is there even a choice there? It's such a simple choice, right?
Their hair thinning and weakened nail beds.
Wow.
4 other employees said they are in therapy because of their experiences. 3 people say
I'm not surprised if they're getting antipsychotics.
Self-deletion.
Wild. Get a new job, bro. Get a new job.
It sounds like you have a bunch of super 20-ply soft employees, but Fallon is, has a long and storied history of enjoying the drink.
This could be part of why.
I don't feel bad for Jimmy Fallon because these are the people he hires and keeps around him. It probably is a high pressure job. It probably is.
Like I said, I don't know if Jimmy probably has no say in this. He probably really doesn't. Why would you hire writers and stuff that are going to hate your opinion and hate that you brought on Trump? Even though it was 5 years ago, 5+ years ago. 7 years ago, I think it's 2017 or 2016. Yeah, so like 7-8 years ago. And you're like, why would Jimmy want these people on there? His I don't even understand. Yeah, so I assume he can choose a showrunner, or he just lambasts them. Maybe that's his plan, just lambast these kids enough so they won't want to work for me. That could be a strategy. Like, again, he could be a good and genuine person, nice person, but then you push him to this type of stuff. They're a bunch of leftists, and he's just forced to work with them, and he has to push the executive so much to give him actually a decent showrunner. That's probably why they've went through so many showrunners. Is, yeah, I hate this person. Okay, fine, we'll find you another one. I hate this guy too. Okay, and then I think he's probably like just thinking like, okay, maybe if I complain enough and they fire enough people, maybe they'll let me choose the showrunner. Again, this is just, there's so many NDAs with this type of stuff, so obviously it's just theory from in conjecture from my point of view, but that could definitely be the case, and it would make a lot of sense how a genuine and nice guy would turn into this and be such a jerk if he doesn't get to choose any of this. And this is what he has to deal with day in and day out. And he, again, how can you quit? 20 million, 16, 20 million, 16 annual from NBC, and then another 20 million in endorsements or whatever he probably gets. How can you quit that? But you do want to do genuine comedy. He's a genuinely really funny guy. I've seen like his SNL. If you haven't seen it, go Google it, SNL audition. It's really funny. He's so good at impressions. So he's worked his whole life to get here, and he wants the money, but then this is the comedy he has to tell because of the showrunners or whoever his executive producers are hiring or the network wants. This happens all the time. If you go look at WWE wrestling, I don't watch it really that often, but I think it's interesting the behind the scenes. The reason why a lot of them going downhill is some of the executives at the network they were on, and they were getting just tons of money. They were like, no, you have to do this, 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 and this. So it'd make a lot of sense if the network is choosing the showrunner or the executive producers who are hiring the staff, and he just hates it. I could definitely see that. Again, just conjecture, but I could see that. Let's watch the rest of the clip.
Working with these lunatics. But when you're some like super snowflake leftoid, who demands that your feelings be validated, constantly, I'm not surprised you can't hack it. I think it's great. It's the start of the end of late night empire.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're gonna cancel Jimmy Fallon. You watch and get rid of him.
Cancel all this.
They're all on strike. They're doing this ridiculously cringe podcast now.
Oh, it's so cringe.
I think that. I'm happy to see it. Mentally, I was in the lowest place of my life. I didn't want to live anymore. I thought about taking my own life.
Go
all
get
the
a
time
different
when
job.
Says, I know deep down that I would never actually do it, but I'm like, why do I think about it all the time? I mean, maybe just get a different job.
That's awful. Yeah. I mean, that's awful. Just get a different job.
These all sound like low-level employees. Get a different job.
Even if it's a high level.
There's a million jobs out there that probably pay better.
I mean, most of the entertainment industry is woke anyways, so go get a job at Disney, right? Or go get a job somewhere else or do an independent thing if you're so talented. I mean, YouTube is huge. Rumble and everything is taken off. All this stuff is huge. If you're that talented, you're that funny, go do stand-up or something. Go get a different job. I feel for these people if they're really in this boat, They're that distraught. I just couldn't imagine, like I was saying before, being at a job where I'm going to stick with this if it's so bad for me. And you're not going forward. You're not, especially if you're creative, you're not going to be doing your best work when you're in this environment. Move on and just think of it as a bad part of your life. Sticking with this if you really hate it is insane. But just to be like talking about this and just having all these negative feelings about it, which I get if they're that distraught. But again, just go find something else. It's way better than going to therapy. You're spending all this money on therapy. You're getting on all this crazy medicine, but you won't just go get a new job? Come on. It's just like, make better decisions. No offense to these people, but still. Like, Jeremy's way more harsh on these people. Even like if someone's a leftoid or whatever. I mean, I get it. These people aren't used to the real world. But that would get you used to it. And I just don't understand. Even if you're not used to the real world, why would you make yourself all depressed instead of just finding another way to make money? And they can put Jimmy Fallon on their resume.
One employee said they lost nearly 20 pounds during their time working under showrunner. Hey, I should probably get a job there. And they cried themselves to sleep every night.
That's awful.
I know other people in my department are also
get a different job
with the mistreatment and never. They keep saying mistreatment, but they don't actually They don't actually list anything. If Jimmy was in a bad mood, everybody's day is screwed. One former employee says people wouldn't joke around in the office. They wouldn't stand around and talk to each other. It was very much like focus on whatever it is that you have to do because Jimmy's in a bad mood. If he sees that, he might fly off. Well, maybe do your job.
Yeah, if he's mad
maybe
about
you shouldn't
that.
be.
Okay.
Maybe you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be.
So if Jimmy's mad, that he's gonna get mad, and if he sees you joking around. So when I watched this video once earlier, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're supposed to be making jokes, but if he's mad or writing jokes, maybe writers, but obviously not, right? Because it's just like, why would he fly off the handle if you're joking around? He'd think you're writing jokes. So you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. And then he sees you doing that, and he's like, oh, now this on top of it. On top of everything I hate about this, now they're not even working. Why are they here? And this is just what he has to deal with? Yeah, it sounds like for Jimmy Fallon, this is as bad. Maybe he's crying himself to sleep. Well, at least he gets good money, though. Like I was saying, these people should just leave if this is what you're doing. Maybe he's crying himself to sleep. Maybe he's doing everything that they're saying. Maybe he has to go to therapy for this stuff. It's because of you guys. Like, you're just not a good fit. No one's a good fit. Just go and leave. Find something else, get a good fit. Go work for Jimmy Kimmel. He'll be happy with you, I'm sure. So go there. Why are you just in this crazy box that you don't want to be in with each other, and you're only there to get money? It's just there's more important things than money. They're spending all this money for therapy and stuff. You're not even getting that good of a salary. If you're spending money on all these SSRIs, therapy, and spending all this time just worrying about it instead of working on something that you should be worried about. You know, every person involved, I feel bad for them, but it's all they're doing, and they should all just break out of that box because they can leave. It's like they're stuck in this box that they hate. It smells bad, and they don't want to be in there, and there's a million holes in it, and then all of them can leave whenever they want. But then there's like, oh, well, you know, it is kind of warm in here. Is it warm outside? No, it's a little colder, but it's only a little colder. It's weird they do this. It's interesting. And then being in that box torments you. There's pain. It's like, well, there's no pain outside. Yeah, but it's a little bit warmer than outside. It's like, oh, this kind of drives me nuts, you know? As like an independent creator, I work for myself, right? So it's just like you can go and make your own thing. Not everyone has that ability. I understand that. But you can go get something else. And you can try the independent route, you know, worst case scenario in this industry in particular.
Standing around and wasting your time and wasting company time and money joking around.
Yeah.
You know?
Then his show's not written well because
this
you guys
is what
are
happens.
around.
I don't feel bad for Jimmy, but it sounds like he hired a bunch of like snowflakes. Literal
Again, I don't
snowflakes.
think he's the one who's in charge of
I don't know how else to describe it. Fallon scolded the crew member who was in charge of his cue cards in the middle of taping with Jerry Seinfeld.
He can't be in charge. The more I just thought about it, why would he be raging at his employees about all this stuff if he could just fire them? He must not have that ability. It makes absolutely no sense. You know, what Jeremy, the guy in the clip here from the quartering, he's like saying, no, that absolutely makes absolutely no sense. Because it's if he's the one hiring them, he could just fire them. Why would he scold them? Just fire them instantly. He probably doesn't have that ability. Most certainly doesn't. The more, you know, we think about it, he must not even have that ability. And that's why he's always so mad.
Then told
Makes
Fallon
sense.
to apologize.
He repeats this, I'm sorry, but he was saying that he did. Jimmy Fallon was having an interview with Jerry Seinfeld. And then Jimmy started scolding a cue card guy, and then Jerry Seinfeld said he should apologize.
Really?
Sorry about that.
2 employees say they saw Fallon seemingly inebriated at work back in 2017.
Seemingly.
Another 2 employees say on a separate occasion in 2019 and 2020,
What?
they
This is
thought
years ago.
they smelled alcohol on his breath when they entered an elevator with him during the workday. According to 8 former employees, Fallon's
Okay.
behavior seemed to be dependent on if he appeared to be hungover from the night before.
Or your terrible jokes. It's good theory.
One employee says, depending on Fallon's moods, they felt like the notes in his feedback could be passive-aggressive, personal insults as opposed to constructive criticism.
Yeah, he hates
They
you.
say
You
he would
should
write
quit.
comments like, "Are you okay? Seriously, do you need help?" Rolling Stone reviewed
Well, I
photos
mean,
of
they're
employees-
literally saying they need help. Maybe he's literally wondering. Maybe that's not even a note. These people are crazy. Maybe that's not even a note. Maybe he just wasn't even responding to the note. Maybe he's literally asking, are you okay? Do you need help? He could literally be asking that. And then they just take it the wrong way. That could be the case because these people are literally in therapy and are taking SSRIs. Maybe he's being genuine. I don't know if he is or not. Obviously, conjecture again, but it's like that could be the case. You are in therapy and seem like you do need help, and according to their own admissions. Now they're complaining about it. What was written on the note? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just where he wanted to write it. I don't know. Maybe he saw you sad over there, you know, and he just asked it. Who knows? I don't know. He could have been just saying that for people he hates, like I was saying earlier, but at the same time, maybe he was being genuine. He's like, do you actually need help?
Alleged notes from Fallon that read, "Ugh, lame." Oh no, he called an idea lame? What's going on with you?
You're not allowed to do
Done
that.
Yourself. Same employee.
So they don't even want constructive criticism, apparently. He said, ugh, lame. Oh, no. I would think that was hilarious. I like making jokes and stuff a lot. But if I said something and they said, ugh, lame, I would think that was hilarious. I'd start dying. I'd be like, yeah, probably not my best work. Probably not my best joke. You know? But I wouldn't just like cry about it. It's like I would just take it as criticism and I would personally think that was hilarious. And aren't these comedy people? They want to be in the comedy industry, but then they hear Ugg lame and they just don't even think it's funny. They don't even laugh it off. Yeah, whoever's hiring the staff for Jimmy Fallon, they are awful. No one is even there is funny, and you could tell. Comedians would think that stuff was hilarious. They wouldn't cry about it.
Also send combative emails, not emails. Oh, no.
Combative. Do we have an example?
2 employees remember witnessing Fallon scold a crew member who was in charge of his cue cards in the middle of taping with comedian Jerry Seinfeld.
Here it is again.
They say it was an uncomfortable moment, and Seinfeld told Fallon to apologize to the cue card production member, which he then allegedly did. The employee says that incident,
nothing
which
else is
awkward
alleged
to watch, did not make it to the version of the show that appeared on television.
I love how everything else is, oh, they said this, they said this, and then, yeah, they said this. They said that they thought they smelled alcohol on Jimmy's breath, but then allegedly he did apologize. It's crazy these media companies, these writers are in the same boat. They're such snowflakes, too, at these, like Rolling Stone, that they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, allegedly, and then I'm going to pick a side, and it's obvious in the writing, because they're like, if this happened to me, I couldn't believe it. I have to go to therapy for my job, and it's not even bad. I couldn't even imagine being you. So then they just frame it. That's how they do things in media anyways. If you're not doing exactly what the establishment says, you have to be canceled, and we're going to try to get you canceled. That's mainstream. That's all these mainstream journalists. And, just all the publications.
And Jerry was like, you should apologize to him, almost trying to make it a joke. A former employee says it was one of the strangest moments I've ever seen. So Jimmy
That's one of the most strangest moments you've ever seen was that. These guys have some cushy lives. Me, I've seen way more worse and strange moments than that growing up. You know, I'm glad that they have that they had that those lives. But I'm just saying that's one of the strangest things you've ever seen. Seeing someone that scolded someone because they were messing up the cue cards. Yeah. Welcome to the real world, folks. Strangest things. It's like what they do in schools now and stuff too. That's one of the strangest things they've ever seen. I highly doubt it.
And a bit of a jerk on set.
Oh no.
Every one of these complaints is like a complete nothing burger. This whole article in the Rolling Stone, this is just about the collapse of late night. They're trying to get rid of him. Purcell's showrunner at the time did implement regular internal diversity and culture meetings after, and to this day, The Tonight Show has a diversity and inclusion council.
Great.
Some employees say they were hopeful that he wanted to make lasting changes on the show, but they were let down a few months when Betterman took over. She began bullying and mistreating the staff. One black employee says that Garnet Betterman kept asking him, "What's going on with your hair?" The employee also said they witnessed them make comments about how much food people would eat, saying to staffers, "We're eating just a lot today and not caring about what we look like." 2 former employees say they were also mistreated by Sweets who bullied and
what they look like, they must have been like executives. I think that's what they were saying. These people are crazy. So if from based on that statement, if you like break it down and think about it, not caring about what they look like, they were probably giving a tour of like a media or whatever, and then they're just eating and not even like working out what they're supposed to be doing. So then who they're trying to look good to was probably like, ugh, all these guys just do is eat and they don't even work. It was probably like a budgetary committee. And then there's like, all they do is eat. And then it's just like, oh, you don't even care what we look like. You can see why their bosses are mad at them, because just based on their own statements, their bosses are like, you don't care what we look like in whatever scenario where they would care about that on that specific day. And then the staff doesn't even care about that at all. They're like, oh, that's just what they said. We're eating too much. You don't care what we look like. That's just mean. It's just like, bro, you have a budgetary meeting. You might get fired. You don't even care what like everyone looks like. You're going to get us fired. And then there's like, oh, whatever. These people just have the inability to get another job. It's just, but then they just want to go get fired, apparently. I don't know. These people on this staff are wild. And this is the entertainment industry. That's why I want to cover this so in depth, because this is the entertainment industry. And I love, like, you know, all the new studios and independent stuff popping up, because this stuff, it just can't work out, because this is who they fund. And this is, if you go and use the entertainment industry, which I do too, you know, to be honest, watching The Lord of the Rings on HBO Max, it's amazing. Extended edition, highly recommend it. But my point is, the more you give these guys money, this is who these guys are going to hire. And yeah, and this is the type of industry it's creating. But they're going downhill, the industry is overall. So hopefully they're learning from this type of stuff.
And yell at them. These are all, this is so stupid. This is like the dumbest hit piece in history.
Go work at any restaurant and the head chef is going to yell at you. That's just how it is. Not maybe literally any, but any decent restaurant. My roommate works at a couple restaurants, and the one chef, he yells at people and it's how it is. You can't take it personal.
Not one of these things is they're just trying to destroy Jimmy Fallon, and they're probably still mad he had Trump on.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Every one of these employees sounds incredibly soft.
Yeah, they can't even find another job.
Since I was 14 years old, I've had bosses smack me in the back of the head.
Oh, wow.
I've had bosses scream in my face. And you know what I did?
I'd quit.
I quit, and I got a different job. I didn't run to a newspaper and whine about being quote-unquote mistreated.
Or get on SSRIs.
It's like... It's so bizarre that this even exists. That's thousands and thousands of words of ex-employees whining about not being able to hack it at the job. Jimmy Fallon is a drunk. Job. Okay. Maybe they're all mad about the podcast. I don't know.
Maybe he's a drunk because you created it.
This is like a total nothing burger. I mean, these employees are also. This is what happens when you have a staff full of leftoids.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. They run to HR. I never made an HR complaint in my life. I just quit jobs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just so stupid. But that's modern day media, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a modern day entertainment industry. It's insane. This is a modern day, like, working for most companies. And they indoctrinate these kids through college. They don't understand. They treat them like they literally treat them like they're snowflakes. Like, they're saying, like, okay, if they don't get exactly what they need, they're gonna melt down. Which, as the title of the video is, they literally do. Though they start melting down. It's just like, why do you do this? You know, it's just like, calm down. So all these universities go and just like, oh no, you're perfect. You know, we got to make sure in the classroom we don't trigger you at all. And then they go into the real workplace and they're like, oh, people don't care about that? Why don't they care about that? This guy's so mean. My bosses are mean. Why don't they care about what my professors taught me? You were paying your professors. They are paying you. It's the exact opposite. It's not the same. But these kids are just like, they're so just naive nowadays. It's like, what are you talking about? If you mess up at your job when they're taking part of their money to pay you and you're not doing what they're paying you to do, and they can't fire you for whatever reasons, which that's what it sounds like in these circumstances, they are gonna get mad. It's like, I could be, like Jimmy Fallon, like, could be like, I could be writing these jokes and just pay me more. Why am I paying these people? And then he's like forced by the network to actually say these jokes on a day in and day out. I'd also be really mad. I'm getting mad thinking about it. You know, I think you probably are too. You watching. Yeah, you're probably really mad about this. It's so annoying. So give me more money. If you just want to cry about it and be like, oh no, I can't handle anything. And if someone tells me I should be doing a better job, I have to go to therapy and stuff. And then could you imagine? Oh man, this is just so wild. Could you imagine you're not getting paid as much because you're paying these people and then they're spending their money on therapy because they have the job that they don't even want. So you're not getting paid as much. Why? Go get another job. Don't pay for therapy. It's okay. All these diversity things and stuff, that's probably why they can't fire them. So they just can't. Otherwise, why wouldn't they just fire them and find someone new? It's so much easier. If you have this bad of staff, they probably can't. This network's probably, no, DEI, we need diversity. We need these people. And if you fire this diverse person, we're going to get a lawsuit or get in trouble. That's why these guys probably don't want to quit. Well, if they fire me, I could go file a lawsuit and they'll settle because they're woke American companies. This whole thing is just such a mess. I'd just fire them and take the lawsuit and have a good show. I really would. I'd be like, I am done with this. I'm sick of this. Or I would just quit. I mean, Jimmy has that much money. But again, I could see why he wouldn't want to give that up, though. That's a lot of money. $16 million a year to do what he does. But at the same time, now he's miserable. Like I was saying, he might be in therapy. He's drinking all the time because of this. Because of his life, making all this money. It's like, just go get a different gig, man. Everyone in this box is just, like I was saying earlier, it's just, they're all miserable. Everyone should get out of the box. The box should be destroyed and they could go on their merry ways, you know? So, yeah. But it's frustrating. You know what I mean? As a business owner and a creative, I'm frustrated for everybody. They should be able to go and have their jobs, do their good work. Everyone should, and everyone should have a good product and it be entertaining millions of people. But you can't, it's not that simple anymore. You bring Trump on, you rub his hair, and what happens? You get snubbed for Emmys, which I don't even know why he cares. I'm like, don't give me an Emmy. I'll be the top-rated talk show, late-night talk show host. I don't care about an Emmy. You know, the Eminem line. You think I'd give a damn about a Grammy? It's like, I don't give a damn about an Emmy. Eminem, that was his best, that was one of the biggest selling albums since 2000. That album. So it sold over 10 million copies. So it's just like, who cares? Don't give me a Grammy. Don't give me an award. Don't give me anything. I'll be the top. And that's what these people should be focused on. But again, I don't think Jimmy, he probably doesn't have a say. The networks are telling him what he can do and can't do. So for him, it's miserable too. They should just end all this. Jimmy is a really talented. He's really good at doing impersonations and stuff. Go do your own thing, and then you won't even be impacted by the writer strike or anything, so who even cares? Take the money loss. He probably doesn't need it. Probably is the key word. These guys can all go find another job. And these people have to realize, hey, if I'm just woke and I'm just sad all the time, people aren't going to put up with it. Yeah, he taught me that in college, but it's not the real world. All right, but with that, let's move on to the next story. Firearms decreed illegal in New Mexico by Democrat governor. Here's a clip.
Governor bans carrying guns in Albuquerque after 11-year-old killed. Let's you want to pull that article up? You have that there you go. And NewsGuard certified 100 out of 100. I can't believe this. Governor bans wild. Carrying guns in Albuquerque after 11. It's not just Albuquerque. It's there's like a metro limit.
Oh, wow.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham on Friday announced a new public health order that she said will ban people from carrying firearms, either open or concealed, in Albuquerque and throughout the Bernalillo County for the next 30 days, regardless of whether they have a permit. Grisham, a Democrat, issued an executive order Thursday evening
like it's
declaring
dangerous.
gun violence a public health emergency.
Sounds like it's a very dangerous place. If you live in Albuquerque, I feel bad for you. It's really ironic. She's like, it's so dangerous in Albuquerque that you can't carry a device to defend yourself. What is wrong with these people?
See, this is beyond unconstitutional, but I will tell you this right now. I'm willing to believe the police, with smiles on their face, will arrest you.
Maybe.
If you have a weapon.
Maybe.
The order states...
I saw this today. This was posted, I think, yesterday. This clip was recorded yesterday. I saw something on Twitter earlier from a quote from this governor. She's like, I don't care if it's unconstitutional. I don't care. All these gang members, they have guns on their waist and everything. So it's easier to arrest criminals. And they were like, well, you can't do that because it's unconstitutional. And she's like, oh, no, I can. If I declared it an emergency. Not that I can do whatever I want. I don't care about the Constitution. Look that up. I saw it on X, Twitter, whatever. Look that up. It was really interesting.
No person other than law enforcement
Sorry, I don't have the video.
Or licensed security officer shall possess a firearm, either openly or concealed, with cities or counties averaging 1,000 or more violent crimes per 100,000 residents per year since 2021. So, because of that, it only applies to the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, Lujan Grisham said, and can only be enforced by New Mexico State Police, whose presence in the state's largest city would be significant over the next month. We've seen this kind of things happen in various countries, happen throughout history, and they almost always, I think it's fair to say always, lead to very, very, very awful outcomes. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the awful outcome, but typically disarming the population by decree results in active conflict between the citizenry and law enforcement. And, I know all of these libs are going to get so bent out of shape when I say this, but for those of you that know American history, you will know that the first battle, which wasn't really even a battle of the American Revolution, was because the Crown was trying to seize the weapons from local militia. Basically farmers who got together and said, we do not believe these laws are justified. And they went and said, okay, well, we're going to come take all your guns from you. And they said, no, you're not. When we were setting up the show, what's the big story, I always ask? And we've got this huge story about the Georgia grand jury voted to indict 3 sitting members of the Senate, Republicans. And only because the Democrats are like, no, we're not going to do that, it didn't happen. Even though this is what the grand jury does. This is where we're at right now in this country. And then Brandon over here says, New Mexico just banned by decree carrying weapons. And I'm like, no, that's wrong. Googled it, and I'm like, no, this is just some kind of like platitude. This is some kind of... And then Brandon's like, nope, New Mexico, here it is.
Literally just came up in my Instagram feed.
Wow.
And the first time I looked at it, I'm like, maybe this is somebody being a little dramatic on Twitter. Because, sometimes people... they see a story and then they extrapolate something that's not quite correct. Like, it's not all the way verifiable. They just kind of go their own way with it. But sure enough, looked into it, and that's exactly what it seems like just happened.
I will say...
Amazing.
Yep. Yeah, no, she admits it. I found this. Where she was saying this. I'll show it to you here.
Yeah. But your point is valid. You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise...
I'm sorry if there's an echo on this. My apologies.
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those.
Makes no sense. And if they could defend themselves if you gave them that constitutional right.
Bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute. You're saying about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are there rights?
There already are crimes, exactly. Why do we need more laws?
Who's standing up for that right? If this climate
they should be standing up for themselves with their gun rights.
Somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
You're punishing people for other criminals. For people being, you're punishing people for other people being criminals.
No. But here's what I do think. It's a pretty resounding message.
Yeah, that's what she says. Yeah, so all that's real. But, yeah, so what can you say? Let's get back to the clip, but I just wanted to show you that and confirm that, and that's what this governor is saying. She's all on board with it. She thinks it's the right thing to do. She's saying, what about their constitutional rights? Like, what are you talking about? You're taking away their constitutional rights, too. If they can't carry a gun, what are you talking about?
Arizona didn't ban guns. Some tyrant is attempting to, and that tyrant, or New Mexico, thank you very much. New Mexico didn't ban guns. Some tyrant's trying to, and it's up to the people of New Mexico to decide whether or not that tyrant's going to speak for the people.
This is the inflection point. The question we have right now is it a legal executive order? And the question for a person in my position is, what advice do you give the average person?
First of all, I think that it's clearly unconstitutional. There is no provision in the Constitution, in the federal Constitution, the United States Constitution, that empowers governors to revoke the rights of any citizen.
She doesn't care,
any
though.
reason. So
or to create law.
Fair enough. True. So there's that. So first of all, right off the bat, it's unconstitutional. You're going to have people get together, peacefully open carry, peacefully disregard the law, and it's going to have to be.
They probably won't even know.
It's not a law, though.
Well,
this is the
decree.
This is the question I have. My position is almost always, we challenge the law through the legal system. When legislatures pass laws, it's something we have to get active on with knocking on doors and filing lawsuits. Many of these laws are unjust and get removed instantly. It is extremely likely that this thing is going to be struck down almost immediately. However, the governor did it on a Friday intentionally so that she's guaranteed a few days of this being in effect.
Yep.
Which is using the
She's
procedure
a nasty person,
as the
it seems
punishment.
like.
What do you say to the average person? This is not law. This is unconstitutional, and I would argue should be considered seditious or illegal on the part of the governor.
Should be illegal.
It should be a criminal act to subvert the Constitution.
Yep.
And it is, actually. The question is, who will the police, in what direction will the police decide to enforce this? Do we then say, you must abide by decree of governor? Well, that's not legal in this country. In which case, we would say to people, disregard decree of governor? Well, now you've got police saying you're inciting criminal actions or something to that effect.
Yeah,
the law
it's
is broken.
wild.
The legal system has shattered.
You're saying if you tell a cop in New Mexico to defy the governor that you're committing a crime?
No, if you tell someone they should keep and bear arms regardless of the decree, you are now inciting someone to, as per the governor's view, violate their public health order under executive powers.
So wild.
Which is not law. But the police will say you're inducing someone to commit a crime.
America is
so I did
not
just look
America
this up. This is kind of interesting because I agree with a lot of that. Like there is no provision that allows the governor to defy, the Bill of Rights. That's very basic. But they're having state police enforce this, which is why I was really curious what the New Mexico state constitution says about it. So Article 2 of the Constitution of New Mexico provides, quote, "No law shall abridge the right of the citizen to keep and bear arms for security and defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for all other lawful purposes. But nothing herein shall be held to permit the carrying of concealed weapons," which was kind of interesting.
So this is the New Mexico Bill of Rights, Section 2, and right to bear arms is Article 2, Section 6. And it's exactly as you said. We have it pulled up here. And this was, it looks like as of November 2nd, 1971. So the governor, if the police, I'm hoping the police just say, here's what needs to happen. We need a statement from the head of state police publicly right now to the press. This is not correct. It will not be enforced. The citizens have a right to keep and bear arms, as regulated, and we will not arrest anyone. I'm sorry. I've seen it happen too many times. We all know.
Are the police going to actually do that, though?
It's actually relatively prominent. A woman from Pennsylvania going to Atlantic City. She had a revolver in her purse. She crosses the bridge into Jersey and gets pulled over. Officer comes and says, I pulled you over. And she goes, I don't. And then she says, but I do want to let you just make sure you're informed. I do have my weapon, my gun on me. I do have a permit for it, and it's here in my bag. And he went, thank you, ma'am. Out of the vehicle, please. You're under arrest. That's a felony. And wow. The only reason, so this is a story that was told to me by a gun shop in New Jersey. Apparently it was a big deal. The only reason she got off was that her lawyers pulled up a case where a celebrity was given a special pass.
What's her name?
I don't know the woman's name. I was in a gun shop. This is the guy told me. So
I've heard this story too. Like I can
there was
verify that this story has gone around.
There was some celebrity who got special treatment. Their lawyer cited this case, and then the DA was like, "Okay, drop it. We're going to lose this one. It's going to set bad precedent." But the only thing that matters to me is that the cop, with a smile on his face, said, "Ma'am, I know the bridge is 5 minutes right there. I could turn you around right now and say, just bring it home. But I want to destroy you."
Instead, he decided, I'm going to ruin your life. Right? Like, so I'm like, there's a lot of people that are ACAB and there's a lot of people that are very, don't cross the thin blue line. Both positions are stupid. Right? You have to have some amount of policing in your society and in your community. And if you go to communities that are riddled with crime and you talk to the normal people that are not committing crimes, they're like, send more cops. We need more police because we need to get these people that are committing the crimes off the streets. If you go to places that are high crime, the police know the people that are committing the crimes. They can pick them out. Usually it's
that's wild.
If it's a major city, a couple hundred, few hundred or whatever. You could lock those people up and that'll solve a large portion of the crime. That doesn't mean that every time a cop pulls you over, it's a good idea to tell them all your personal private information. Concealed is concealed. Hush if a cop pulls you over. I think if you have to tell about your gun, you have to tell about your gun.
I think they are trying to create physical conflict in this country. Look, these videos of the feds arresting J6ers with rifles pointed at them. Some portly fellow walks out of his house in his shorts, scratching his face, huh? And they're just all pointing rifles. What happened in Provo, Utah, when they went in that guy's house, shot and killed him? Yep. It appears, maybe it's not the case, but it certainly appears like they are doing everything they're possible to provoke a violent outbreak. This right here in New Mexico 100%. Is basically chucking dynamite into a crowd and being like, let's see what happens.
But I always say specifically is they want Trump supporters to act a fool. So if you are a Trump supporter, just stay calm and don't do anything crazy like they want you to. Just use the legal challenge. It's just going to sway the public. They're trying so hard. They're pushing you so hard. They're trying to push you. They're pushing you and come on, attack me, attack me, attack me. And then no one's really paying attention. And then once they start punching you, yeah, it's nuts, but then just push them off, and then everyone's just going to be like, whoa, why'd you punch? And they're getting to that point where they're just going to start leveling haymakers at people, and then it's just going to backfire because they're just trying to push a little bit. Okay, come on. All he did was push you. You didn't have to, beat him so bad. So that's what they want the public to think. Oh, he just pushed you. You don't want to, but then they're just going to eventually, if no one does anything, it's fine. Then they're just going to go that crazy, and then the public will just see it. So stay calm and don't do anything, and the public's going to see the truth. It's just slowly happening. Trump's going up in the trends and everything, so just keep on just doing what we're doing and just chill out, convince people of stuff, and, just stay calm because that's what they want. They want you to freak out. They want everyone to freak out that is sick of this stuff, left or right. And even if it's someone on the left, they're going to say even if you're a Joe Biden supporter and you're just sick of all this, they're going to say you're a Trump supporter. That's how it is.
I know a lot of the case that you were talking about earlier where the cop you said actively chose, he made that decision to ruin her life or at least make her life extremely difficult for the next few years. That's where I've learned a lot just being around donut operator Cody is my best friend.
He's great.
I've learned a lot about policing and different stuff like that through his eyes and stuff like that. And a big thing that he harps on is officer discretion with stuff like that. Yeah. That's something that, and I think that's where a lot of the nuance gets lost between the ACAB crowd, the thin blue line crowd. The officer's always wrong, the officer's always right.
They have
officer discretion
they can make decisions.
Is really an important thing that is not utilized enough.
And I know that there's a lot of officers, a lot of police officers that don't live in the towns that they police. And I understand that there's a lot of security issues that can come up, and there's safety issues if you're in a place that's got a lot of crime and you're actively throwing people in jail and you live in that town, then there's a possibility of retribution and stuff. I get it, but if you have police officers that you see regularly and you can have a rapport with them, and the police officers can have a rapport with you. If a cop knows that you're not one of the handful of garbage cans that are out there causing all kinds of problems in town, the cop should, and obviously it's not every cop, but the cop really should take that into consideration.
So shout out.
This is anecdotal. I live in Austin. I live near downtown, and completely anecdotal. But the cops in Austin, now they're doing a lot of state police. Sorry, they're doing a lot of state police because of talk about a decree from Greg Abbott, the governor here in Texas, to have more people come in to Austin state police because the city has defunded the police so much, and 911 calls are going out of control, the timing and everything. So I haven't ran into them, but they're pulling a lot of people over, and so I haven't ran into them. But Austin PD in particular, APD is awesome. I came from Michigan where the police, if they talk to you, and I came from a small town, half of the cops were nice and half of the cops weren't. I haven't had any problems. I've lived here since 2017 in January, and no, the cops always chill with me, to everybody. I had a woman I was hanging out with, and she was visiting from California, and she asked the cops about weed she was like, "Oh, so the is weed legal here?" And then I'm from California, and the cop's just like, "No, it's not, but we have way other big things to worry about." And then also, I saw a cop, or my brother used to do Uber, and he saw a guy just run a red light right in front of a cop, and he didn't even care. The cop just pulled up to the light after, and he's like, "No one was coming. Who cares?" So APD is generally like that, even in a big city. So big cities could do this, but yeah, that's more likely in small towns, But now that the state police have been coming around, all these small traffic violations are probably getting enforced. So you should keep the local police. Yeah, it's way better. And don't defund them, because then you do that. Now you got the state police coming in here, and they're used to enforcing traffic laws, where APD, they're used to being chill. Austin's kind of a rambunctious city a little bit, not too much, but, people don't care too much about these, like jaywalking. I've walked in front of cops in Austin countless times. They just don't care. It's like we have bigger problems to solve. So they don't enforce the law here, right? Most cops don't. So that's how you should have it. And again, don't defund APD, because now you have the state guys coming in, and they do care about stuff like that, stupid stuff like that. So just remember that, I'm not saying you, because you're watching this, you're probably not going to be hating on the police like that. I have mixed feelings on the police. I don't like that the government gives so much power to certain people, but at the same time, if you actually have a cool city that's like relaxed, the police are just going to help you. They're just going to come and help you. If something happens, they're going to help you. If someone's trying to fight you, they're going to help you. They're not going to come in and raid your house for some dumb stuff. If you have weed on 6th Street, for example, no one's going to care. They have bigger problems to solve. So, yeah, I like the local police, like that thing, and knowing the local police, even if you don't know them directly. Like, I don't know any cops here directly in Austin, but when I talk to police here, they're always really nice. They're really friendly. They don't just accuse you of stuff. Where I grew up in Michigan, in a small town, you just did anything, and they were like, okay, if you lived in a nice area, they'd be like, okay, cool. But they would just interrogate you. They would stop you, get out of their car for just walking down the street. You're like, I was a teenager, and then they would just be like, "Oh, what are you doing over here?" And then they come and talk to us for like, no, I'm not doing anything. I've never had that happen in Austin, not even close. If I'm just walking down the street, cops just don't care. So yeah, the local thing is very important. And again, don't defund your police in your city, because the governor or the national government is going to take their place anyways. So I have people, but be careful too, though. I mean, there's been a lot of police instances. I talked about this before. I don't want to get too much. YouTube's going to demonetize me. But like right before I moved here, there was a 17-year-old kid. He was driving without a license. The cops harassing him. He was going to pick up his brother from his basketball game in high school. It's really messed up. He forgot his wallet, didn't have his license. The cop makes him get out of the car, and the kid did something dumb. The cop like shoved him, and then the kid attacked the cop, and I could tell you what happened. And I saw the body cam footage. And then this cop was just being such a jerk to this kid. Wouldn't it be like, and this was a smaller town in Michigan too. So, and then he was just being such a jerk to him. And then the worst happened, There was the kid isn't alive anymore. Let's just put it that way. And it's so sad. He just went to go get his little 15-year-old brother. He's only 17, and he goes to get his little brother from the basketball game. And what happens is now his life's over. That's awful, just because the cop was being a jerk. So, it's tricky, but get a good police environment and make sure they're cool people. Like here in Austin, have a cool area, and you can fund the police, and they're going to take care of you. They're going to worry about way bigger stuff. So, but yeah, it's tricky, but yeah, I see both sides really, because that is messed up what happened to that kid in Michigan. But yeah, so it's an interesting topic, really. But don't defund your personal police or your city's police, because then it's even less personal. But let's hear what else they have to say.
To Elon Musk for helping bring awareness to this. He just responded, but it's all like his response is already generating a reaction. So
to
the story, I tweeted the story out, holy
joke.
F, and so a whole bunch of people have jumped on it. That's what gives me hope, is that this was such a bold and psychotic move. It's like dropping a boulder into a pond. Everyone notices the bang and the massive splash just shocked everybody.
And the cops, the New Mexico state cops that are listening right now, or they're going to hear this story, have an opportunity to exercise some discretion right now.
Yeah.
You got to protect your citizens.
Absolutely, especially if you swore an oath to the Constitution of not only the United States, but I imagine to New Mexico.
So
it is your obligation.
And you mentioned the Constitution of New Mexico. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tim, real quick, but like almost every state in the union has something that resembles the Second Amendment.
Yes.
All of them.
Oh yeah.
Every single one has something similar. It's not the exact same thing, but all of them have something like the Second Amendment, because owning firearms is one of the things that is a clear indication that you are free. Right?
California doesn't have one.
God, and it is biting them.
Not surprised there.
They must have.
Tim must have just looked that up. He was just like, nope. I bet you California's. I was about to start looking that up, and then Tim did it. Go him, because I was like, does California? That's a good question.
No, they never really did.
It's a newer state relative to the rest of them, but
true.
Yeah,
so,
maybe
but it was
Hawaii
still
doesn't.
founded like during the Civil War times, if not before. California is around the gold rush, so it's just like, yeah, they're crazy there. They might have just got rid of it though. They're nuts
as well. But,
no offense if you're from
seriously,
California, but the culture in California is kind of crazy. You got to admit, if you still live in California, I don't know. It's interesting. I know people have family there and everything, but get your family out of there. Get everyone out of there. It's awful.
The Second Amendment is supposed to be, supremacy clauses means that it's supposed to be the supreme law, but,
So, man, the culture war this morning was very interesting. I thought it was pretty good. Poor Alex didn't really get a chance to speak. Didn't really speak, so I can't really, thanks for coming anyway, buddy. But Brandon Wu was here, and the general sentiment among many of these leftists, one thing I love what they do is they take tweets of mine where I say something like Civil War, but they remove the context of why I said it. So it's just a bunch of tweets.
I'm always scared people are going to do that.
But it'll be like, I don't know, there'll be an article that says something to the effect of far left extremists, opens fire, killing so-and-so, and I'll be like Civil War, and then they'll remove that story and just snip the little statement. And then imply that I'm insinuating that there's some kind of, or that I want to happen.
He's pushing it for it, yeah.
But in our conversation,
people are so annoying.
Every single time it comes up, someone will say to me, touch grass, right, is the old meme. Go talk to regular people. And my response is just, do you think that during like the American Civil War, that some dude walked out of his house in Atlanta, looked at his neighbor and said, do you want civil war? And then the other guy went, I certainly do. Let's fight. No, if you lived in New York and you lived in Atlanta, you'd walk outside and no one's talking about it because your life was different. You were focused on your farm or your shop or the minutia and routine of your daily lives. Everyone seems to think that you need a mass mobilization of half the country rising up and formally declaring hostilities against the other half.
Yeah,
and
America's
that's never been the case.
Yeah,
in this instance, the reason why this story
America's Civil War is so unique compared to every other Civil War where this happened. Usually it's just factions fighting and you don't know who's who, which that seems like if we are going to Civil War in America, that's what it's seeming like, which I personally think it's going to be diverted. I don't know. I think we're in a cold Civil War right now. In Tim Pool here, he says that we're in like a hot one, kind of, because people are occasionally shooting each other. But generally speaking, that's not happening. So I'd say we're in a cold one. I'm sure, like, I'm not very well versed in American Cold War versus Russia, but I bet you there were some incidences there. So, but yeah, I'd say we're in a cold Civil War now because it's just like all these factions against each other. The left, though, I gotta say, the left, what they're doing, I think they're just going backwards. Like I've said in a lot of videos, like them pushing for immigration so hard, it seems like the left is shrinking and just normal people are just joining the right, so to speak, even if they're not even on the right. Some people want UBI that are on the right now. So it's just like, They're just abandoning the left. So I think the Civil War thing, I don't think it's actually going to happen. I think it's just going to taper off. Well, taper off. I think there will be a big event. I think if Trump wins, like I've said before, in 2024, the left is going to go nuts. The extreme left. They're going to light the Capitol on fire. I've said that before. Look at what they're doing in state capitals. They're going to do something crazy. But then they're going to go get rounded up, and then the country is going to swiftly take it outward, somewhat swiftly within a year or two. And I think it's going to be diverted. But it is a worry. You know, I'm worried about it too. Everyone should be worried about it. Sorry.
We've just quite literally been talking about Lexington and Concord over the past week, when a couple hundred redcoats were like, hand over your guns. And they were like, not, you know, you can pry it from my cold dead hands. And then they tried. And that's considered a handful of militiamen. Maybe it's a little hyperbolic to say handful, but local militiamen, regular people who had weapons, saying no was the first battle of the American Revolution. The shot heard around the world.
And to even further your point, if,
That's
like going
wild.
back to the American Civil War, after the, you know, you've got the Revolution with Lexington and Concord, but in the American the American Civil War.
Sorry, I cut him off. So basically, what Tim was saying is the first battle from their Civil War was them trying to take the British were trying to take guns from militiamen.
There's always usually a focal point that happens, and it's usually some sort of government decree of some sort.
Yep.
Because the one in the American Civil War, a lot of people point to, is when Lincoln went to the South, and he went to a lot of southern states and said, I expect you to send me 75,000 troops so we can go invade the states in rebellion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
And
is,
it was,
like, I think he demanded out of North Carolina and a few others, and the response was overwhelmingly, I think we're going to secede instead.
Yeah, Lincoln was a tyrant.
A lot of people always get mad when we talk about this stuff. They're like, you're not a historian and you're getting the facts wrong. It's like, okay, dude, I read a couple academic historical papers and watched a few documentaries, so I'm probably wrong. But my general understanding was that seven states seceded before Lincoln was inaugurated, and then you had states, I think it was like Tennessee, West Virginia, well, not West Virginia, but Virginia itself, because there was no West Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia was like, you know, we kind of want to secede, but we probably shouldn't. And they were like, okay, so we're not gonna. Then Lincoln said, hey, these states in active rebellion, I'm going to conscript troops to go quell that rebellion. And that shifted sentiment in these states to where they were like, okay, now you want us.
Yeah,
go to war?
It backfired.
Okay, this has gone too far. We're out.
You want us to go to war with our neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like not go to war with Canada or Britain or France or whatever. Like, you want us to go to war with, like, the state that we border.
Right.
Like, are you crazy?
Like I was saying, a lot of people don't know, Lincoln did a lot of this type of stuff. He locked up journalists. He did a bunch of stuff. It's been a while, like 10 years since I've looked into this. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It's like, oh, he freed the slaves. Well, the slaves, when they freed them during the war, they were forced to join the Union Army, as far as I understand it. And then they had to go fight on the vanguard, the front lines. So it's just like, you as a slave, okay, you just got freed from slavery, but now you're forced to go fight on the front lines for the Union Army. You know, a lot of those people might have just taken slavery, and how messed up is that? They just got freed and they're all happy. It's like, okay, now you have to go fight on the vanguard. Again, the vanguards, if you don't know, it's the front lines of the army. How wild is that? So it's just, Lincoln isn't as good as, the byproduct of slavery being ended was awesome, but the way it happened was awful. And like, Britain bought back all the slaves government wise. I think America's the only country that went to war to end slavery. Any of the big countries, I don't know about like smaller countries or whatever, but yeah. So yeah, it's wild, very wild.
But this shifted sentiment. But I do think it's fair to say that's actually, we're so far away from that. Bleeding Kansas is a better example of where we may be today. And the American Revolution may have better analogs with the Spanish Civil War, but Bleeding Kansas was a 7-year conflict. Not even just Kansas, but in the territories outside of the actual states, in the U.S. territories, with the debate over which state would be a slave state or not, you had people murdering each other.
Wow.
So I look at this. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What happens today will not be a one-for-one reflection of what happened back then, because
definitely
the
not.
internet. I mean, that's the easy one. Things are very different.
Yeah, power.
In
Automobiles. Lots of examples.
I'm talking to Brianna Wu earlier, and she's saying, like, we need to stop being at each other's necks, calm down, and, move this country forward. Everything they're doing, nothing but escalate.
Yeah, it's the
and
opposite.
I mean the establishment, the machine, the DOJ. I won't even take Democrats. Let's say the DOJ. When you have...
If you're still supporting
Joe Biggs get 19 and a half years in prison for this stuff. I'm like, yeah, you realize that's just going to make everyone angrier. They like to say that it's absurd to bring up the concept of civil war. So I asked a few simple questions of Brianna. Do you think the people that stormed the Capitol when Joe Biden wins in 2024 will just pat their hands and say, well, good game, everybody, we're done? Or do you think they just say, we are still angry enough to break into the Capitol building? Yeah. There's been no logical assessment by anyone who takes issue with Barbara Walter, Stephen Marsh, or There's been no logical argument against anything we've said. And those are two Democrats I'm citing specifically who have said more so than I that we are in or actively facing civil war. There's been no argument as to what the off-ramp would be.
Yeah, and that goes back to...
My argument is Trump wins, the left goes super insane and does crazy stuff like I was just saying earlier, and then Trump arrests him, the public want him to arrest him, and then stuff tapers down because everyone got arrested. They're trying to do the same thing with J6, kind of, but the people on J6 didn't really do anything. It was all really minimal. And then still, everyone, like a lot of people in just the independents turned on people from J6. And even though just the people that probably did most of this stuff, like the window breaking and stuff, were probably leftists in disguise. That's another video for another time. If you go look at some of the stuff I've talked about it before. But yeah, so I think they're going to go nuts. So yeah, it's going to be crazy. And I think that's the off-ramp. Tim asked about this a lot. And it's like, I think that's the off-ramp. Trump wins. The left goes completely wild. All the normal people are just like, okay, the left went so wild. And then Trump's going to go and be like, okay, good. Now I actually have fuel to lock these people up, and then everyone agrees with it, and it just tapers off. Because the extreme left, they'll probably just be like, what can we do now? Well, I don't want to get locked up, And they're setting a precedent, which is interesting. So if publications do get arrested, or whatever, people that work for publications do get arrested, and then they get convicted, and then the left goes and does the same thing in 2024, the precedent is already set. It's like everything they're doing is just backfiring, because then they're going to get arrested, right? Because it's like, oh, you did this and you did it. You arrested these people for doing this scale, for going into a building when the cops let them in. You burned the fucking place down. Sorry for my language, but you burned the place down. They're going to be like, oh my God, this is insane. You're getting way more. So that's what I think the off-ramp would be. And they get so much time that people are just like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm just going to go back to my normal life. And then Trump will just get elected and everything's going to be chill and people probably won't even care anymore. The majority. Some of these small fry people, kids living in their basement, trying to watch all these communist videos and going nuts and everything. Yeah, they'll do crazy stuff, but the majority will just hate it, and then they'll just get arrested and they'll fizzle out. You know what I mean? It's like how in the 80s there was so much murder and so much crime, and then it slowly fizzled out.
Like the classic meme of like, who radicalized you? You did. It's like it's the actions of those people that because they're it's a lot of, it's almost a direct comparison to what people like Jordan Peterson have said about Ukraine. Like we need to figure out what victory is, because it's like is winning a good thing in the long run? It's like if you rub your nose in the cat
and then whatever
is that really winning long term, or are you just building resentment? Are you making things worse?
Look at what the DOJ is doing.
Exactly.
A video was just put up by, I think it was Julie Kelly, of Enrique Tarrio on the day of January 6th with her. He's being filmed. They were filming this. And he had no idea they got in the building. He was surprised to see it. And the evidence is all there.
Wow.
This is a fabrication against
22
him.
years.
According to her tweet, the feds tried to get Enrique to say that he was working with Trump, or that Trump had some involvement.
He didn't even know.
They wanted to connect Trump directly to Proud Boys so they can put a brand name on insurrection and say Trump orchestrated it.
They're
Likely
still
remove
going
his
for
name
it
from the
anyways.
ballot. Enrique refused, so they give him 22 years. Plus, it'll be 22 and a half.
Wow.
You know what I said? There is something Joe Biden can do if he wants to simmer things down. He can issue a blanket pardon of all the
He
all
doesn't
J6s
wanna
right now.
do
And he can
that.
say, like Shays Rebellion, he can say, it was wrong of what you did, but we cannot survive as a nation if we're constantly at each other's throats.
Yep.
That's why I think it's fair to say for those that have spent time already, time served, and for everyone else, we are giving
been
you a good
years.
faith effort. They won't.
Well,
but
they
should.
might. We gotta make
they
sure that we
might.
don't go so far as to say that
They're
the
not
solution
doing
won't
that.
happen. You have to propose a solution and hang.
So I get what you're saying. That's probably a good perspective to have. That being said, it will take Democrats to stop the escalation.
They
Republicans
want the
can't, like,
escalation.
Republicans and the people
They
that are
want the
being
escalation.
persecuted by the Democrats, by the establishment, they're not in a position to
The
say,
establishment
okay,
wants
we're
the
going to go
escalation.
ahead and chill things out. And the reason is because all of the things that they're accused of are all things that are legal. Like they fabricate stuff. The guy from InfoWars that's going to go to jail. Like,
Owen
or they
Schroyer.
want, like Owen Schroyer, he was speaking. Like Tario was talking to people. Right? These aren't, it wasn't incitement. These are such tortured accusations, and they have to be stretched and twisted so much to make them fit. It's ridiculous. And because of that, it has to be the people that are in the position of power saying, okay, we're going to stop using
They're
our
not going
power.
to, though.
Because the
Why
people
would
that
they?
are not in positions of power are not in any position to say, we're going to stop escalating, because they're not the ones escalating.
Exactly, Tim.
Yeah.
You brought it up. Fonnie Williams actually refused to indict these people.
Thanks for watching this clip from
Yeah,
the
this stuff is just so wild. How it's getting. It's just going nuts. Yeah, now firearms are getting decreed illegal, and the leftists went out of control. And they'll just say it in public. That clip I showed you earlier. They'll just say, okay, I don't care. I don't care. I'll put an emergency provision in. That's my duty to protect these people when they could just protect themselves with the current firearm laws. But now she's saying they can't even protect themselves. That's how they look at it. I'm going to use, what's that one quote? Never, I don't remember who said it. Never let a good tragedy go to waste. And that's just how it is. An 11-year-old girl, something happens to her. Very, very sad story. It's awful. But if you let people defend themselves, this stuff would go away. That you just getting rid of that's just going to make it worse. Every city that does this, look at Chicago. Look at the situation in Chicago. You get rid of all these guns permanently, and then luckily she can only do it for 30 days, maybe in 3 days until tomorrow. I'm filming this on Sunday night. Luckily, they'll probably get rid of it. But like her whole idea has always made it worse. Like get rid of guns in Chicago. Murder rate skyrockets, out of control. One of the highest in the country. It probably, for the per capita, it's probably the highest in the country. I'd have to look that up. But per cap, and then that's what she wants to do. They want conflict. They want people to be in fear, so they'll vote for them. But I think people are, like, the Democrats are so in good control now and over so many people. I think I heard about it recently. George Soros funded DAs, like a third of the people, 2/3 of the people, I think it was a third, are under a DA that was funded by George Soros in the country. People are starting to wake up to this stuff. You won't convict criminals. I thought I covered this recently. I thought it was so funny. New York is just like, the police are saying this. Oh, okay, we're going to ban people from stores. And then if they enter the stores, because 300 people commit almost all the crime in New York City. So they're like, oh, well, we're going to ban it from the stores. And then because that we did that, we can go and charge them with more serious crimes because they entered a store that they were banned from. I'm like, them fighting with store clerks, robbing them, and breaking stuff and just theft, that's not a serious crime, but banning them from the store is. What? It's all so backwards and broken. They want this stuff to happen. But they're getting egg on their face. Look at Mayor Adams from New York. He's in there talking about the migrant crisis in 2021 when he's running for mayor there. He was just like, oh, no, we should be a sanctuary city and we'll always be a sanctuary city. He comes out a few days ago and it's like, oh, no, it's ruining our state or our city, and everyone is going to have to pay for it because the services are going to go down and everything. Even him, he's turning to this type of stuff. He's starting to realize it. So I think it's just a matter of time. I think that's the off-ramp. These guys push so hard that they're going to fall. And Trump losing maybe was a blessing in disguise in 2020. The J6 stuff sucks. But if you look at it, like now everyone is starting to realize leftist policies are really bad. Because Joe Biden is so incompetent, and they went so hard to fast track everything because Trump got elected for 4 years and they weren't expecting it. So they fast tracked it, and then it just blew up all in their face. It's like if you try to cook an egg too fast, it blows up and splashes all over you. That's what happened. That's what's happening. And that's what's happened. So now people are just like, I'm done with this. I'm going to vote for the right. So everything that they wanted, it's not going to happen, in my opinion. But I guess we'll see. And then everyone's just going to turn against them because of this. You just see the writing on the wall when you just make it clear as day. You write it in red letters instead of, white on a white wall. Bam. Because you wanted to fast track it. And you only had black paint. Bam. I'm just going to do it to fast track it. Well, guess what? Now everyone sees it. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Migrants take over abandoned New York City school. Here's a clip.
Almost like liberal parents are getting what they voted for. I wonder if this will be enough to change their vote. It's kind of like a simulation.
I think so.
How much chaos can you tolerate before you vote out Democrats?
Good question.
We're about to find out. Because our next guest says thousands of migrants are living in an abandoned school in the heart of her neighborhood, across from her child's school.
So wild.
The migrants of Migrant Academy are loitering, drugging, drinking, and knocking on doors asking for cash. Not even offering to work for cash, just asking for cash.
Yep.
Rachel Maniscalco joins us now. Paint a picture for us. What is going on in this neighborhood where you live, where your daughter goes to school?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for bringing attention to this untenable situation. We live in Staten Island, and people know Staten Island as the most Republican borough, and we're very proud of that. I've never voted blue a day in my life, and I want that to be very clear. My daughter goes to a private Catholic school, and right across the street is a prior Catholic school that was supposed to be kept as an educational facility. And that hasn't happened. James Otto, the former borough president, assured parents that it would not be turned into condos. He wanted to keep it educational. And that was in 2018. And here we are,
it's still here.
5 years later.
It's a migrant condo now.
It is becoming a migrant facility.
Wow.
And so what are they doing? Are they outside? Are they causing a ruckus?
Well, right now, because of how many rallies we've had and how many protests and how many parents have stepped up and been outside of the school, a lot of them come in, they don't want to stay, which is what we want. That's what we want. We want this city to understand that
you don't want them to come,
we are not going to take this. We are not going to take this sleeping or sitting down. These are our kids. And, we don't want them to feel fearful. We fully accept legal immigration. From those people, but we do not accept this as the way that
Are
it is.
the migrants behaving themselves at Migrant Academy?
This one has been open for only a brief time, about 2 weeks. However, the hotel in Travis, another part of Staten Island that was turned into a migrant shelter about a year ago, those migrants are not. They are wandering. They're in people's backyards, knocking on doors. They're not working. They're loitering. They're drinking. They're doing things.
That's
throwing
crazy.
Trash. This is not sustainable. What are these people supposed to do during the day?
I guess they're supposed to loiter and smoke meth, because that's what they're doing right now.
How do they even get the money for that?
And thank you for all your efforts and for all the moms out there that are turning things up, because power to the people. That's the only way the politicians are going to listen.
Yep.
Maniscalco, no relation.
No, none to Sebastian.
Yeah, that's wild. It's wild what these people have to deal with and everything. And she didn't even vote blue, but that's what happens when you're in a blue state like this, overwhelmingly blue state. Even if you're someone that votes red, what are you going to do? It's like now you're just stuck with all these blue policies. And like I've been saying, it's just like in other videos and other segments, it's like, what are you going to do if you're living in Chicago? And, you know, don't vote for the left at all, because this is just dramatically just showing the left's policies failures. Because this is what they want. This is what they're saying you want to want, and it should want. And then they didn't even want this type of stuff when Obama ran in 2007, 2008. He was saying, no, we need to stop immigration. We need to stop immigration. Come on, you guys gotta get it. You know, and so he even knew it. And then Trump started saying it, and then now it's all bad. And then people got convinced. So they voted for Biden. The media is saying how bad Trump is. He's bad, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad. So then they voted for this. And look it. Trump was awesome, except for if you didn't like him, his personality or whatever. And then we were doing all great. And then Biden comes in, bam. People are like, whoa, I should have voted for Trump. So I just think it's backfiring on them. But with that, let's move on to the next story. This one is very messed up. Pro-life advocates face potential 11-year prison sentence after peaceful protest at abortion clinic. Here's a clip.
This is from WNG.org. Washington jury convicts 5 pro-lifers. I find this story absolutely fascinating. They say the jury on Tuesday found the 5 activists guilty of violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Authorities immediately took the pro-lifers into custody. They now await their sentencing, and their lawyers are planning an appeal. The trial, which began with a jury selection on August 9th, centered on the participation in a 2020 sit-in at a facility in D.C., where they suspected an abortionist of performing illegal late-term abortions. Each of the activists faces the possibility of up to 11 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and as much as $350,000 in fines. We've talked about
that is so wild.
Escalating conflict, culture war, cold culture war, whatever you want to call it. And one of the examples that we often give is Colorado and I think Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
They border each other. In one state, abortion is completely illegal, and in another state, it is completely unrestricted, which opens the door to some very serious troubles. If, say, a woman flees the state where it's overtly illegal in every respect into Colorado for the abortion, which is likely happening now as we speak, and then there is a challenge from another individual who says, no, stop her, she can't do this, it's illegal. What happens? Does Oklahoma send police to stop the woman from aborting and killing the baby because they view it as murder?
No.
Or do they not view it as murder? What I'm interested with the story about these activists is that if you take the perspective that abortion is murder and that this doctor may have been performing late-term abortions, you have a story of 5 individuals who took no direct physical action to stop an active murder from taking place, simply sat in front of a building where a murder was taking place, and will now be going to prison for trying to stop that murder. Again, that's if you take that perspective. That, I gotta say, is very interesting to me because it says to me, I don't actually think conservatives think it's murder. And it was actually there. I can't remember who was making the argument.
Depends
it was actually a
on
pro-life
how
Christian conservative who said
pregnant they are.
Clearly, there is something different about it in that even pro-life activists do not behave similarly, overwhelmingly. There may be some individuals who would view it completely as the same thing, but for the most part, the political conservatives that say it is murder do not act like it is. So I'm wondering if, for one, this is a crazy story, and I'm interested in what you guys think. Interested in what you guys think about it. I'm also interested in where we go from here, considering this.
I honestly think that I think that the whole dogpile on people that are so pro-life that they think a 1-day-old inceptive child is the same holistically as a 17-year-old boy. So yeah, destroying a fertilized egg at 1 day and killing a 17-year-old in cold blood are very, very different. And I feel like it's LARPing to act like it's a murder.
Why is it different?
Because it has no cognizant sentience as far as we know.
So a person who's like in a coma, you can kill?
No, that has nothing to do with it. I'm talking about a 1-day-old inceptive egg sac or whatever it is, and then an adult human. They're just different. So I find like this obsession,
but
and you see it here, like
explain it to us. I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Well, it doesn't know English. It probably can't do math. I don't think it can even speak. It doesn't have.
Okay, but are those
doesn't even have ears. I don't think it has auditory ability.
But I don't think.
Does a 6-month-old have that ability?
I'd have to pull out the thing and look at it to examine to see what all it's developed at that point at 6 months. But usually by 24 weeks, I think you've pretty much become a human.
So you're taking the Vosh approach in that babies aren't actually alive until some point after they're already born.
No, it's living tissue, but not. They're not 24 weeks. 24 weeks.
You're saying during pregnancy, and you're saying after birth.
I'm sorry, say again.
You're saying after conception.
24 weeks after conception.
You guys are talking
just making sure we're not talking about a 2-year-old.
No, 6 months, 6 months, 4 months. I don't know, something like that. Well, but at some point it starts to become human, and it's still living. I'd never say it's not alive, but whether or not it's a murder depends on whether or not it's a human being.
Well, the law.
It's alive, but it's not a murder.
Yeah, correct.
So intentionally killing a human life is not murder.
No, it's not a human. I don't think it's a human until 6 weeks or whatever. It's 24 weeks.
What is it?
What is it?
And a blast. What's it called? A zygote.
Are you going to say cells? Is that where we're going to go?
All of the above.
We're going to go the left wing talking.
It's pretty vague.
Describing a human, though. All those terms to describe the stages of pregnancy are all describing what eventually is a human. I was going to say becomes a human, but they're all ways to describe a human
From
being.
Ian's perspective,
dogs are zygotes too at some point. So zygote is like an undeveloped animal.
So like here's I mean, I don't want to get into the argument over abortion. I'm more concerned with the political ramifications of these people being arrested and their perspective on it. But I accept your perspective, Ian. I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say. I don't think you've actually you've accurately articulated it in a way that I or many people could understand.
When people say that abortion is murder, I think it is kind of like a LARP. If people were in that building getting killed in cold blood, those people would not be arrested.
And I
They'd
agree.
be heroes.
This is the point I actually made. These people believe that a murder. They claim a murder is taking place, so they sit down and hold hands. I don't think they actually believe that. I agree with you. I do think that babies are alive in the womb and all of that. I do think, at one day of conception, there is a human life there that would be killed in an abortion. But there's clearly something different about it in that these activists, and almost every single activist, their position is, well, another murder happened today. Let's write it down. I'm when you see a video of a store clerk being robbed and the guy starts mercilessly beating the dude with the stick, these people are cheering and celebrating. Yet when it comes to this, they're like, let's sit down in front of the building. Now, I'm not stupid. I understand. There is a political climate here, and these people are trying to do the nonviolent civil disobedience, which is the appropriate way to protest what our society deems, in many respects, acceptable. Well, half does not. They're taking the nonviolent approach to a conflicted issue in this country, which is, in my opinion, nonviolent civil disobedience is the correct way to address these things, but they're going to prison for it. If you can't sit down in front of a building and link arms,
J6 is the same way.
I was going to say, is this a state that has one of the barrier
Yes, the
laws?
FACE Act. It's DC.
So they're saying that they're within the violation. Like what were?
Yes, they were in DC, and DC has a law saying you can't block access to a clinic.
So are we
11 years for that?
Psaki. I don't know if you saw this the other day.
11 years?
That, the whole thing about Democrats being a fan of late-term abortions is misleading. Are they starting to?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Look at the laws in D.C., and that is the nation's capital. Look at how dystopian they are. It's illegal to block a clinic, and you get 11 years in prison, even though it's not even a life-threatening thing you're blocking? No, if it's life-threatening and you kill a person, okay, manslaughter, right? 11 years in prison. It's like, how do you get 11 years in prison if you blocked a clinic, even if it was just a normal clinic, and it was just like, oh yeah, I wanted to just, I just wanted to check up on something. It's my annual checkup. My health insurance pays for it. 11 years in prison for you. It's just like, why? Maybe 11 days at max, and even that, I'm just like, probably just who just cares. But maybe 11 days. 11 years. That's wild.
Back away from this now? Because how we even got to the point where there are a lot of Democrats, there are a lot of people on the left that are okay with all the way up to the point of, a week before birth.
Post-birth.
Okay with terminating a pregnancy.
The former Virginia governor, he was okay with post-birth abortions.
Back away
he said
from that
it
now?
in a speech.
I think a lot of people equate supporting something with happiness. I think there's a lot of people that I've talked to that are pro-abortion. They're not happy about it. They support it. They want it to be legal, but they don't get joy out of it. I think that's the more normal approach when it comes to being pro-choice. But I think it's still there. I don't see anything backing away from it. I think because Roe v. Wade's kind of in the rear view mirror right now. We've talked about it less as a country, but it's going to come back. It always does.
Right now in this country, Roe v. Wade has been overturned. Some states have decided to outright ban abortion. Some states have decided to make it unrestricted, limitless. The Democrats, of course, lie endlessly. Like I forgot who mentioned it. Jen Psaki says nobody wants this, but all of these states, you have I should say all of you, but many of these states are enacting these laws. You may say, oh, people have gotten arrested for, nonviolent civil disobedience in front of these clinics before. But we're now at a point where the conflict may be coming to greater tension with, like I mentioned, Colorado and Oklahoma bordering each other, and one saying absolutely not, and one saying under any circumstances. With stories like this, pro-lifers are being told there is no nonviolent civil disobedience path towards resisting what they view as murder. My fear is what happens after that, because the last thing we want is anything to escalate. But the government is going to put these people in prison for sitting down in front of a building.
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Up to 11 years, I think it is.
And then $350,000 fine too. So
up to, the courts may say, a year or something. They may get probation. But either way, we've got these people blocking highways. They get arrested for it. You got these activists that do this nonviolent civil disobedience all the time. You had far leftists storm one of the Senate buildings, storm the Capitol building previously for like Roe v. Wade stuff, banging on the Supreme Court doors. No problem. You got far leftists trying to burn down the White House, burning down a guard post in front of the White House, setting fire to St. John's Church. What did we get from that? Nothing. I'm like, this is getting scary. That's all I can say.
There's got to be a way with abortion to have this conversation that is going to heal the system, because instead of being like screaming, no, yes, no, that doesn't work. Instead of being like murder, 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 when it's not legally a murder, don't scream that it is, because it's not legally one.
Hold on. There are some states where it is legally murder right now.
Well, what happens if you...
So in a state where it's not a legal murder, and so there's no point in screaming murder. That's not the way.
Well,
but also,
hold
take
on.
an 8-month-old baby in the womb.
Stop right there. Stop right there. This is the conflict I'm actually talking about. If you live in Oklahoma, it is codified that it is illegal to perform an abortion. So the people in that state have stated by their own democratic processes, you cannot kill this baby. If you live in that state, and there are many people who live in many states not have enacted these restrictions or total bans, they are saying it's murder, and they have made it completely illegal. Other states have said the inverse. It is not murder, and it is unrestricted. So you can't just say it's not a murder now, because some states are saying it effectively is.
That's an interesting way to look at killing, but you're right.
But where does this conflict go then? If you have, this is why I'm saying this is a federal question. This is a question under the 14th Amendment. I guess it depends on your definition of a naturally born citizen, because if they're not born, then the 14th Amendment may not actually protect them. But the 14th Amendment actually says something to the effect of human rights not being denied. This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, because when you have an 8-month-old baby and you look at it in the eyes and it's looking at you, it's a human. I've had friends that were born premature, but they could have been aborted in certain states legally. Right. And I'm like, but once you know like that, if you can know, maybe you would be less likely to want to do it.
The issue right now that I bring up is if Oklahoma says it's murder and it's illegal, and Colorado says, nope, it's not, and you can kill the baby, this something is broken in this country. You cannot have a nation where certain jurisdictions determine that human DNA and matter is not worthy of life rights, and one state saying they are. This is a recipe for exactly what we saw back in 1861.
Yeah, it's weird though. That's how the country is. States' rights and federal rights, and that's how it is. That's how we got the United States of America. Is all the states can choose what they want, but we're united in some effect, and I have pros and cons, I guess.
Saying you do not have human rights, while other states you do have human rights. This is an impossibility. They cannot. These two positions cannot coexist.
So there are 30 states where it is considered double homicide if you kill a pregnant woman. 15 of those states, abortion is fully legal up to.
What? So it is murder.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it is murder.
I don't understand. How do you have that double standard? That's what I don't understand.
That's fascinating.
Are you saying 100% sure it's considered a murder, or is it just an illegal killing of some sort, like a man?
Homicide. Homicide means human killing human.
Because murder is a federal crime.
Homicide means human killing human. Yeah. If you are correct in that, if there's a woman who's pregnant and you.
So technically, actually, just to correct that, homicide, from what I understand it, is someone dies around you. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you murder them if there's a homicide. You could be convicted of a homicide if you're doing some heavy substances. Sorry, YouTube, I can't actually say what I want to say. Heavy substances with someone, and something happens where they lose their life. Yeah, you could get convicted of homicide just for that, even though you didn't really, or something like that. Sorry.
You're drunk and you crash into them. They say you killed 2 people. There's 2 homicides. It's a double homicide. They are saying a human killed a human, and that unborn baby was a human.
It could be looked at as like as a manslaughter. Not necessarily a murder. Murder's a different. Murder's like a federal crime.
Well,
so
even
I don't
if
know
it's murder, you're still. I mean, or even if it's manslaughter. I mean, you're still slaughtering a human. That's the whole point of manslaughter.
I agree.
No. I'm fairly certain in the states you're referring to, if a deranged serial killer takes a machete and goes to a pregnant woman and butchers her, killing both the baby and the woman, it is a double murder.
Well, even if you just shoot the woman, I mean, it's like, because it's...
Yeah, if the baby dies...
It's going to die as a result.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip.
Yeah, very, 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 very interesting conversation there. It's pretty dark. My apologies for that. It's crazy how they go from, the pro-rights advocate to... I don't know. All of it's dark, honestly. Yeah, my take on it is they're just peacefully protesting. It's a lot like the J6 thing. It's like they went into the Capitol because the police let them in. Was there some bad actors? Should they be charged? Absolutely. It's like how BLM people, most of the people that did BLM protests, they shouldn't be charged for anything. They're just going out protesting. But some of them did crazy stuff. So those individuals, you shouldn't charge people as groups. This stuff is so wild to me. As individuals, they made individual decisions, and they should be individually charged because of that. But just to have someone blocking a clinic, like I was saying earlier, and then be like, well, you get 11 years in prison. And if someone would have, lost their life because of that, okay, fair enough. 11 years in prison, I would get it. But what reason would they even be doing that? That would be some savage stuff, so that makes sense. It's all intent. From what I understand, I went to a couple years of college, and I went to business law, and they were saying it's all about intent. The law is intent. If you intended to do it, that's what's important. Can you get stuff if you didn't intend to do it, like manslaughter or whatever? Yeah, you can, but you're going to get lesser time. But this type of stuff, they weren't intending to do anything to someone, to harm them. They're actually trying to protect another being in their eyes, another person in their eyes, and 11 years in prison for just sitting in front of it. It's out of control. And like I was saying earlier, the capital city, Washington, D.C., and then they're like, this is what we want. Is it who the politicians are always around? It kind of makes sense. It always goes more left, doesn't it? But then again, it makes sense that DC is left because they're all funded by the government. It's all a giant mess. But yeah, these guys, they should be just let free, not have anything. This is just wild. And like I've said in other video segments, this is just going to turn people against the left. Even people that are like pro-abortion, they're going to be like, okay, I'm pro-abortion, but this is too much. I'm just going to start voting for people on the right, because even if I am pro-abortion, at least they're not going to lock me up if I go and stand in front of a clinic for something that I disagree with for 11 years. They're just going way too forceful. And then like people on the left, they used to be against government doing this type of stuff. 9/11, the NSA, all this type of stuff. Like they didn't want any of this stuff. The NDAA, look all this stuff up, it's just like they didn't want any of this stuff. The left was championing Edward Snowden. The left hated George Bush. But now it's just like, oh, I get 11 years in prison. Like, forget the Patriot Act. You get 11 years in prison for sitting in front of a building. It's just wild. I think they're just going too ham. I just think it's going to backfire. They're just going way across even the line most leftists would draw. But with that, let's move on to the next story. RFK Jr. sounds alarm on DNC's fixed primary process. Wait till you hear this. This is wild. Here's a clip.
Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy joins me now. He says that the DNC is attempting to manipulate, essentially, this primary process. Mr. Kennedy, welcome back to the program. It's always good to have you with us. Thank you very much. So,
thank you. Thanks for having me, Martha.
You know, I mean, how are you managing this process? You know, what's your plan? And what do you think New Hampshire is going to do? Are they going to have a primary on January 23rd is one date that we're seeing?
It's a good question.
I mean, the DNC has been very public, although its charter requires it to be neutral in presidential campaigns. It's been very open about the fact that it has its candidate. It does not, it's irritated that it has to have a primary season at all. In fact, they're talking about actually trying to make me and Marianne Williamson pay for the primaries because they consider it an unnecessary process. But
how wild is that?
Also gone to this,
the normal process is unnecessary. The primary process that they do all the time, it's just like, oh, no, this is unnecessary now. But they're trying to save democracy, right?
New proposals on September 14th, so next week, a whole series of new proposals that will disenfranchise the voters in certain states that voted against, in all the states that voted against President Biden the last time around. So as you pointed out, he came out, I think, 4th in New Hampshire and 4th in Iowa. So those primaries have essentially been kicked out of the process. The DNC has ordered New Hampshire to switch its primary date to later on in the season. But New Hampshire, the Democratic Party in New Hampshire has no control over that. It's a state law. It's part of their constitution. They cannot change it. So they basically, the White House has made a decision. We are just going to disenfranchise them. Not only that, they're considering a new proposal. So if I go into New Hampshire and I go into Iowa, which I have, if I set foot in the state, they now have a rule that no voter who votes for me in the state, that their vote will be counted. Any delegate that I win will go to President Biden instead. They're trying to now change the rules to make it even broader by saying that any candidate, which is me, that goes into New Hampshire, that any vote that they get in Georgia will not be counted, and any delegate they win in Georgia will not be counted. They've also they've provided for President Biden this giant loophole, which allows him to raise $750,000 per donor when I am restricted under the FEC rules to $6,600. And in that way, they've raised almost, my understanding is that they now have about $2 billion.
Wow.
But they've used a lot of other machinations to make sure that nobody can run against the president. This obviously sounds
extremely unfair, and it also is getting weird because now you have people like Jim Carville and others who are sort of appear to be hankering around for another candidate or suggesting the potential that maybe Joe Biden, with terrible poll numbers, should not be the candidate. And yet,
even CNN is turning on him.
In the Democrat hierarchy, based on everything you're saying and the things that are spoken about in the media, it's like they don't think you exist. Watch this from The View just yesterday. Watch this.
The Republican campaigns are sucking up all of the oxygen because there is an actual primary, whereas the Democrats don't have one. Yeah. Republican candidates are spending. Should have one? The Democrats? No, because there's nobody running against Biden. So I mean, who is he going to? I guess the question is, who's he going to debate with? Casper the Friendly Ghost?
I mean, what do you think when you hear this conversation?
It's surreal. My polling numbers are better than Ron DeSantis.
He's right.
Or any other candidate except for Biden and Trump. But I'm, even when they talk about me on the DNC channels on CNN and MSNBC, they always refer to me. My first name is long shot candidate, whereas everybody else has a candidacy that is taken seriously.
And that's when they're being nice.
I'm not allowed.
Like any Republican.
I'm not allowed
come on. Like every candidate in the Republican primary, let's be honest, has way less of a chance of beating Trump than RFK Jr. does of beating Joe Biden. I could actually see that happening. No one's going to beat Trump. Come on.
CNN or MSNBC at all, and all of the Republican candidates can go on there. Jake Tapper has said publicly he will not do a town hall for me, even though he's done them with Nikki Haley and with Ron DeSantis. So it's surreal.
Yeah. It's remarkable, especially when you look at some of this polling, because CNN's own poll, speaking of CNN, shows that 67% of Democrats say that they want another candidate. And in fact, 82% of that number say they don't even care who it is. They just want it to be someone other than Joe Biden. So there you are, sort of waving your arms going, hey, what about me? And they refuse to talk to you. You say that they call you long shot. When they don't call you long shot, they call you conspiracy theorists. So, there appears to be a very coordinated effort against your candidacy. So how do you break through that? I mean, what's your strategy? How do you break through that?
It's a good question.
Well, I mean, the way I break through it is what I'm doing. As I said, my favorability numbers are now better, far better than President Trump's or President Biden's. So the strategy that we're employing is actually
you haven't been president,
working,
though,
and that
so
is to do a lot of long-form interviews.
It's not as important, but I see what he's saying.
Podcasts to
that is
come
good.
on this network, which does allow me on. You guys have been very, very generous. And to go anywhere that I can and talk to people. And when I talk to Democrats, we have a huge conversion rate. So I think their only strategy is to make sure that Democrats don't hear me talk, don't hear that I'm not actually anti-vax, and that, the other things they say about me are not actually true.
All right. So you are in South Carolina. You said you're going to a football game. You're holding a rally there. I know you feel that you can have a strong showing in South Carolina as well. It'll be very interesting to see what they decide to do in New Hampshire. And I suppose there's a possibility that you could be on the ballot, and Marianne Williamson, I assume, would also be on that ballot, but Joe Biden would not be on that ballot. So I need a quick answer, sir, if you can. But is that your hope that, if that's the situation, you can go out of New Hampshire and say, I won New Hampshire?
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer the whole thing stinks. He should be on the ballot. We should all be on the ballot.
I agree.
I don't want a fixed election. Everybody in this country believes.
That's why RFK is popular.
And this process is kind of
isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy? Like, all you have to do to be popular is just want a normal American process now, and that raises you up in the polls to third of all candidates from what he's saying. Like that, how wild is that? That is nuts. All you have to do is be normal, and then it's just like, okay, you're in third in the. That shows how normal people just want just some sense of normalcy. That's all they want. They don't want all this crazy stuff. But you know what you're gonna get is a bunch of crazy stuff from all these candidates, because that's what people think they want, and then they're gonna try to rig all this because that's what the establishment wants.
Okay. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Sir, thank you very much. Always good to talk.
It was the end. I didn't know. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is crazy. They're trying to do all this stuff to stop RFK and everything. I don't think RFK could beat Trump, but that would be a really good standoff. I don't agree with RFK on his policies and stuff, but him as a person, yeah, pretty cool guy. If it was RFK versus Donald Trump, that'd be awesome. If Trump lost, you still got someone in there that's going to be reasonable, So, yeah, it's really interesting. But that's why they want it to not happen, because RFK could actually win. For them, if it was RFK versus Trump, they already lost. It's just they lost no matter what. So yeah, they just can't have it happen. But like I've said in other segments, it's just backfiring. Them trying to rig the process against RFK, it's just going to make Bernie Sanders support him, and no one likes Biden anyways. So if you are on the left, you could, I could see some people rallying behind RFK, but Biden, no one even likes him anyways. So yeah, if it's like I was saying, the establishment, they get these two guys in, they already lost. So they're going to do everything they can to keep both people off the ballot, Trump and RFK, but I think that's just going to make it backfire on them. And people are just going to go harder versus anti-establishment. And that's what they don't want at all. And that's what they're trying to protect, but they're just causing it to happen. All right, but with that, let's move on to the next story. Truth Social might dissolve very soon. Here's a clip.
Truth Social might be going the way of the dodo. Truth Social is Trump's alternative to Twitter, and Truth Social was begun back in October of 2021, and now it might collapse within days. And it might collapse because Trump Media and Technology Group, which is the parent company for Truth Social, was going to merge with Digital World Acquisition Corporation, which is a Miami-based company. And they were then going to go public via a SPAC. A SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. And anyway, this is all sort of a bunch of background business, blah, blah, blah. But the upshot is the two companies had between 12 and 18 months to complete the merger. The deadline has been extended at least 5 times. It's now scheduled for September 5th. Shareholder meeting is scheduled. I suspect Trump doesn't want to keep Truth Social around anymore because I think Trump wants to go back to Twitter, now known as X, because that's the way that he's going to reach the most people. But what happens then? What happens if Truth Social collapses? Is this good for Trump? Is this bad for Trump? I think basically it would be good for Trump. And I think it would be good for Trump because, one, he can now save face since Elon bought Twitter. The point of Truth Social was to give conservatives an alternative in social media. The libs controlled all of social media. So here's an alternative. Well, then Elon Musk spent $44 billion and bought Twitter and has made Twitter much more amenable to conservatives and has defended the right of conservatives to speak on Twitter and is now potentially even suing left-wing activist groups that are trying to pressure advertisers to defund Twitter. He's really put his money where our mouths are. So Trump can save face and say, look, the thing that I wanted to accomplish with Truth Social has now been accomplished through Elon Musk. So I'm going back to Twitter. I mean, the basic reason that Trump started Truth Social was that he was deplatformed. He was kicked off of all these services, even though he was the sitting president of the United States. Well, now he's been invited back on, and that is largely thanks to Elon Musk. So he can, look, mission accomplished, right?
But on the other hand, I got to say, like, at the same time, he is invited back on, but what if someone else takes over Twitter? It is good to have his own platform. I personally hope that Truth Social will stick around. A lot of people think it's just for right-wing people. I see leftists on there. I think they're just on there to troll every post that Trump posts, but that makes them on. It brings them to Truth Social. So I hope it doesn't go away, but let's see what else Michael Knowles has to say for some more details.
What about the black mark on his record here? Trump is going to be called a failure because Truth Social was a failure.
Yeah. He's failed at a lot of stuff.
And I especially don't think that matters to Trump. Trump has failed at many, many things. And I say this with love and admiration. He failed at the vodka. He failed at the steaks. He failed at the airplanes.
I think he started like hundreds of businesses, Trump has. And what are the notable ones? A few. Yeah, he talks about that in his books.
A lot, man. I'm not even getting into what happened when he was president. Trump is also one of the most successful people on planet Earth. That's undeniable. I know the Trump haters want to deny that. This man is extremely successful.
Give credit where credit's due.
If you fly around in a gigantic jumbo jet for your entire adult life, you're a success. If you get your...
Yeah, onto his point where they want to deny stuff, I don't even understand the point. Like, I don't agree with Barack Obama and all the stuff he's done, but... you can't just deny he's not a really good personality. He's a really good speaker. He's a cool personality. One of the funniest things I've ever said, he's just like, he goes to dip a cookie in milk in like a YouTube skit. He's like, thanks, Obama. That stuff, he's entertaining. Even if I don't like him and I don't agree with him, but he's done, okay, well, he's still entertaining. The people that want to take away Trump's pros they're just idiots. I would reference Biden, but I don't honestly think he has any pros. He's not a good speaker. I don't know. He's good at I don't even know. I was gonna say he's good at trying to hide money from the government, but now all that's coming out. So he's actually terrible at it. and he could have done a way better job. So I don't know. So I can't bring up Biden, but like Obama, you could tell stuff that he's good at, even if he was, not the best president, pretty terrible president, but you could still say, well, he had this for him. Trump supporters can't even do that.
Self-elected president, the first time that you really officially try it, you're a big success. If you manage to arouse the ire of America's enemies abroad and the enemies within the deep state apparatchiks who consistently tried to undermine his campaign and his presidency, you're a success, man. You've actually done something. Are these in opposition? No, not at all. The most successful people I know have also failed more than just about anybody.
100%.
And this is a really important lesson if you ever want to succeed in life. Successful people tend to fail at more things than their critics ever even try. And pride, which is the queen of vice and the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins, pride talks in our ear and says, hey, don't do this thing. You might fail at it. So don't even try. Just it'll be so humiliating.
Don't listen
it'll be
to
such
it. Listen to
a wound
listen to
your
yourself.
pride if you try and fail at something. Successful people just ignore that voice and just try things, and they often will throw spaghetti at the wall. Think about how many companies.
I've started countless businesses. I've started probably over 100 like online marketing things, and you just try it and you see how it works. If not, you don't just give up. You just keep on keeping on. Not everything's gonna work, and then the more you fail, the more you realize, okay, who cares? And then you get a couple of successes and you're like, okay, so it's just more of what you try, and that's how you get success. It's not picking the perfect idea like a lot of people think it is. Definitely not. No, you just go and you try, and that's what makes successful people. I think a lot of people like intelligence, work ethic, all this stuff. A lot of people have intelligence and work ethic, and they never even start one business, not even one. But people start understanding, like you try, and that's what makes you successful, because eventually one of those is most likely going to work. So it's that framework that makes people successful. I saw something a few years ago that said that almost every, I don't remember if it was a millionaire or a billionaire. I think it was millionaire, but I could be mistaken. It could have been billionaire, but they said that they had 6, I think it was millionaire. They had 6 income streams. So if you have 6 reliable income streams, how many things must those people have tried? That was from AWUX, by the way. Shout out to them. I don't really watch them anymore, but yeah, good channel. Very good, inspiring channel. So that's what they were saying. Like, successful people have 3 to 6 or more income streams, because that's what makes you successful. And that's what makes sure the money is always coming in. But if you don't try anything, how could you ever get to 6? Even 1 is so hard. Get to 6? That's almost impossible. So you have to just try like 300, 400, 500 things, and then you can get there.
Trump has failed at, or Elon Musk has failed at, or I don't know, any of the successful people on planet Earth. If you go military leaders,
I wouldn't say I'm that successful.
Failed military
honestly,
campaigns,
but...
for goodness sakes, Winston Churchill, had he died before the Second World War, would have died a colossal failure. But he just kept going. This is true of every great statesman throughout history and business leader and just anybody who's ever done anything.
Yeah.
And a really important lesson to take away. It's one of the best lessons from Trump's public life. And look, maybe he's going to fail in the 2024 race. I don't know. But the one thing I'm damn sure of is that he's going to try. And the only way that he's possibly going to be successful, the only way that you or any of us is possibly going to be successful at anything, is if we risk failure. Don't worry about failure.
Yeah.
Successful people are going to fail more.
Great message on this video.
Than the losers ever even try. Right?
Yeah, that's an awesome message that he shoves out on that. I love that. But hopefully, True Social, I don't want it to dissolve, honestly. Sell it to someone else. Hopefully it doesn't. I understand what Michael Knowles was saying in this clip. He's saying that, okay, he's just going to go back to Twitter because they accepted him back. But then at the same time, it's good to have that little thing at the bottom. I don't understand, to me. Maybe it's just because it would be Trump's thing and advertisers don't want to jump on or whatever. But, I mean, Truth Social doesn't even have a subscription thing that people could subscribe to, where Gab does, Minds does, Twitter does, Facebook does now, Instagram does. Why don't they do a subscription thing where you could get more hype like Twitter does, right? And then you can blow. I don't want True Social to go away. When it was launching and when it launched, I didn't like it. I was like, they're doing this line thing that you have to go wait in line, and who knows when it's gonna appear. It took me like a year or more to sign up for True Social, but really the community there is awesome. They're supportive, they're nice. Even the leftists that are on there, and when they're discussing things, they're not trolling. They're actually pretty nice. They'll troll a little bit, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're leftist trolling a right-wing platform as they see it, but they're pretty nice. To be honest, they'll troll you a little bit, but they're pretty respectful. They're not just saying, "Hey, you're a piece of garbage that should just not be here anymore." No, they just kind of troll you. You're like, "Oh, you think this?" Well, and then they give a decent, an okay point. And it's just like, okay, some of the Trump haters on there do kind of do that, but they're just like, "Oh, well, you're gonna get convicted." That's all they say. They're like, "Hey, well, I'm going to be happy when you go to jail." When he shared his mugshot, all these leftists were on there saying stuff like that. That's fine. Who cares? But it's just social media. That's how it's always been. I've been on the internet since I was 3 to 5 years old. I've been on here since 1992. Not necessarily, but I've used it. I haven't just been on the internet. I think you know what I mean. I didn't really get onto the internet full time until I was 12 or 13. But yeah, I've used it, and my family's had access to it for a very long time, very early age. And, I like it, and that's just kind of just how truth is in general. It doesn't have the numbers as Twitter has or X, whatever you want to call it. But having said that, it is kind of a really cool, little niche place that people on the right can have. And I don't understand why they have to merge or do any of the stock stuff and try to make profit off of it. I don't know why they can't just leave it as this little right wing thing. I don't get it. I know if this social platform, what is it? Rightsonly.net, I believe. Rightonly.net maybe. And it's just this chill little social network where it's only people on the right. And I don't agree with that, just having people on the right. But I do agree with them having the ability to do that. And it's cool they can do that, So why not just have an extra thing? And how much is it costing? I mean, server costs versus advertiser costs or whatever, go get it. If they did a subscription service, they could go make a lot of money. I just don't see the point of shutting it down. There's so much traction. For my videos, I post on there and I get a decent amount of traction, and I get a lot of comments and a lot of thoughtful people that follow on there. With Facebook or X, I don't get any of that. They favor the highest people. So having these little niche social networks, I think, is pretty sick, And then you can kind of build them up and build that little small presence. And then maybe that will move on to X or Facebook or Reddit or whatever. But you got to start somewhere. Having only big social networks is not good, in my opinion, because then you have to be the biggest people to succeed on there. Where if you have a bunch of little small social networks, you can just carve out your niche on that, and then that could be a little small niche on the social network, but at least you can start from somewhere. You go to a big social network, right? And then you have to slowly grow. And honestly, if you don't have fans, they work against you. So it's more up and down, up and down. Like my YouTube views, they give me a bunch of views, and then I spend 3-4 days shrinking, and then they give me even bigger views, and then that's the process. Where Truth, you can just go on there and you can actually get a decent thing right away. It's like the old school social networks. So I don't know. I don't want them to shut Truth Social down. I really don't. I think they were, Michael Knowles was saying on the 5th that could be the case. And here we are, like going into the 10th, 11th, you know. So I hope that they just don't do it and keep it alive. If you can't get advertisers, do a subscription. If they shut this down, honestly, the more I'm thinking about it during my talking here, my commentary, I just think it's a bad idea. People on the right, especially it's Trump's thing, them not having a subscription to get that little bit even extra boom on your posts, it's a mistake. I mean, Twitter's doing it, Facebook's doing it, Instagram's doing it. So if they're doing it, why don't they do that? And that could easily pay for itself and make it money. Who cares about stock? If you can just keep it open, why even get rid of it? But, I guess we'll just see what happens. But I personally hope that it sticks around. More competition is always good for everyone. So I wish Truth Social the best of luck. But with that, let's move on to the next story. This is the last one here. Former Democrat issues stark warning about Biden's policies. We are going to lose this country, she says. Here's a clip.
Joining me now is Georgia State Rep Misha Maynor, who left the Democrat Party earlier this year, and Daniel E. Friends,
good decision, I would say.
Correspondent. Representative, we've talked before about why you left the Democrat Party, but now seeing how things have gotten even worse just in the past few months, what's your message to those Democrats who are still just complaining about messaging and maybe not getting enough money like Eric Adams, but not really focusing on the policies themselves that are driving this decline and despair?
It's a very good question.
The answer is to focus on the policies. We cannot continue to put politics over people. At the end of the
politics
day,
over policy.
People are actually
that would have been a better quote.
Saying, we are not happy with this. You are taking our resources away and putting them in places we don't want them. If they would just listen.
I like this woman. If you this is the first video you've seen from me, I talk about this all the time. Definitely subscribe. Shameless plug. My apologies.
To the voters, they could have a chance, but it's what I'm doing right now is going out into my community and really just exposing the truth to them, and they're listening.
That's what all politicians
should be doing.
Daniel,
we've seen African Americans in Chicago express their total outrage about how the migrants are soaking up all this money.
I talk about
$30 million a month, and by some estimation. And you in New York City, where you're living, what are you seeing there, and how do you respond to the concerns about crime and fill and all the other problems that the migrant population had brought to the city? And why is Eric Adams not talking about the border and not just money?
Yeah, it's insane. As a son of legal Haitian immigrants, I am outraged. I've lived in New York City all my life for 19 years. I've wanted better trains, better schooling, but cleaner streets, better policing. Me and all the residents of New York has gotten none of those things. But the moment illegal immigrants come to our city, they get free hotel rooms and they get health care. It's insane. As a writer for campus reform, I can tell you this is happening in cities across America. Universities are even giving college illegal immigrants free tuition. It's a slap in the face to my—
How wild is that? And no offense to these immigrants, but they don't even know English. How are you going to give them free college tuition? Here, have this, and you can't even understand this stuff where what it's written in. You can't even understand the language it's written in. And then anyone around you can't understand your teachers. But okay, now you're getting free college tuition over Americans that do know English. It's wild. I mean, honestly, these colleges are useless and pathetic anyways, and it's just gonna make everyone that goes to them worse anyways. But even still, it's the principle. Sorry about that.
America who sacrifice a lot for their kids.
Representative, we heard this before, though, before the midterm election, that African Americans and other Americans were very upset by crime, very upset about the border, and really worried about the economy. But there wasn't that much of a shift in the voting patterns among those minority voters. So they seem outraged in polls, but on the turnout and on the vote changes, you're not seeing that much movement. How do you get them to the polls and to finally break with the Democrat Party?
I think opportunities like this, Laura, at the end of the day, you have me on a national platform, and there are going to be African Americans and there are going to be Democrats that are listening to this message. Everything that you just said prior to bringing us on, I sat here laughing because it really makes no sense what you were saying. Like, how did we even get to this spot where we are allowing foolishness to rule our country? And so I'm going to continue to educate the people in my district, people like Daniel, other leaders and other representatives that are changing their minds. We really need to collectively put our voice together, because if we don't, we're going to lose this country faster than you think.
Yeah, and Republicans have to actually go into these areas and go into these neighborhoods and not be afraid to actually speak to people about their concerns
Republicans
and what the
suck,
solutions are. That's got to happen.
Yeah, go in there.
New data from the Survey Center on American Life
just shows like with that statement, it just shows how bad Republicans are too. They're like, okay, all these people are so dumb. All they care about is their political career, and that's all they care about. They're not principled at all. A Republican should be going into the inner cities to spread these ideas, even if they know they're not going to win. But the fact that they just avoid it because they're like, oh, I can't win this. What do you think it's going to do in the long term? In the long term, no one even is hearing your ideas. They're not getting the record straight with the internet. It's changing, and people can look this stuff up. But for the longest time, they can't even hear your ideas. So it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. This is why New York's a leftist stronghold. LA, San Francisco, Chicago. They're all leftist strongholds. Why? Republicans don't go there. All they hear is the Democrats campaigning, fighting each other. They don't get any of the other side's ideas. It is frustrating because now look at where the country's at. You know, it's because you guys, not you, or like these guys didn't step up. These politicians in the past, they want power and that's all they care about. They didn't want to step up for the betterment of the country. That's what I got to say about Donald Trump. Faults and pros, whatever. That's all I got to say about him. He ran to help his country, and people are like, well, he just wanted his legacy to be cemented. I don't care. It still worked out for the country. It's like how they're saying Scott Pressler, when he was going and getting garbage off the streets, he went in, was it Baltimore, I think. Well, he did a bunch of cities. But and then the left is on Twitter like, he cleaned up all these cities. It was just for publicity for Trump. I don't care. So what? What's publicity for Biden? He can't even go to Maui and have a speech. I don't care. Hey, if everyone goes and is getting fame by cleaning up cities, that's a bad thing? Absolutely not. People should be doing that. Yeah, go get fame for being awesome people. Even if they're not awesome people and they're doing awesome things, who cares? If Joe Biden was doing a bunch of great stuff, he's an awful person. But if he was doing great stuff for the country and the country was doing amazing, good fuel prices, a good economy, just everything was awesome. We balanced the budget. He took out the deficit. Even though I know he's a bad person, I'm like, well, go him. You could be a bad president and you could be a bad person and be good at your job, right? But the left doesn't see it like that. No. They think that's the opposite. They just think the opposite. Biden, he's a terrible person and terrible at his job, but He agrees with me on policy, allegedly, even though he probably doesn't. But okay, he says he agrees on policy. He's been in politics for 60 years or whatever. Yeah, he just goes. He's like a chameleon. Wherever he thinks he should go to get more power, that's where he's going to go. And that's who these people side with. To me, it's insanity. Yeah, it's just like, go with the people that are going to help you and not the people that are saying they're going to help you, you know? Look at the writing on their walls. Like I was saying in my segment earlier, like if someone goes and is so impatient that they go and spray paint in black to convince you versus just going to blend it in, you know? I don't know. Honestly, now that I'm saying that, I don't even care. Just go and just see what people are going to do for you. And believe in those people, because those are the people who are if you can see they're helping you. Like Trump helped the country. No new wars, do lowered taxes, lowered regulations. I don't care what Biden or any of these people say. What do they say? What do these Democrats say? I'm going to help, I'm going to help, I'm going to help. And then they just make it worse. See the writing on the walls. See it. You can just see it. They're telling you what they're going to do. You know what I mean? But let's finish this clip.
Black Americans, especially younger ones, ages 18 to 49, are souring on Biden. And just 36%
and I hope on the left in general.
He accomplished a good or great deal. 21% want him as the 2024 nominee, and less than half, 48%, identify as Democrat. Is the dam finally breaking?
I hope so.
I think the dam is finally breaking. Laura, I am sick or tired of the rhetoric that I do not have agency in this country, and plenty of other Black Americans believe the same. A big example is affirmative action. I do not want to be told that I need...
I think that's a really fair point. This guy's a black guy. Like, I don't have agency in this country. And then some, like, the biggest superstars of this country are black. You know? Actors, musicians, sports players. But then they don't have any agency? Come on. It's a joke. It's such a joke. And people are starting to realize this stuff. Which good on everyone. You know, I think it's just backfiring on the left. They're stupid.
Some sort of equitable policy to being a great institution. I want to own my accomplishments and my shortcomings in America.
Yeah.
It's great to have you both on tonight. Thank you so much, Representative
Awesome.
Maynard and Daniel.
Hey, Sean. Awesome segment here. Yeah, I think the left is just getting turned on. Everyone's just turning on the left. They're getting everyone to turn on them. Which good on them. The left is not good. They suck. Everything the left is doing. I used to be on the left. I canvassed for Obama in 2008. I was like, okay, Democrats, they want stuff for the people. And then he was saying we wanted transparency and all this stuff. And I was like, versus George Bush. And I was like, we don't want any more wars. I was like, this is awesome. Go Obama. I'm going to go knock on doors for this guy. He is great. And then come 2012, I didn't even vote. I'm like, Mitt Romney sucks. Obama sucks. He didn't do anything he said he was going to do. He went to Libya. He didn't give any transparency. He made Edward Snowden flee the country. It's all stupid. And I think everyone is starting to realize this type of thing. This is what the government does. They're like, we're going to promise you something to get a vote, and they don't do it. People should be like, after a long time, it only took me like 2 years with Obama. But, you know, other people, you know, I get it. They have their, but for me, I'm just like, no, instantly. But it seems like it's a slow trickle of more and more people realizing this type of stuff, which I think is awesome. They're like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. These people aren't helping me. They're going against me. The migration thing is insane. There's so many immigrants in these cities. Leftists are going left and right, running from the left. There's this woman here in Texas by the border who she just switched from leftist or Democrat to Republican, technically speaking. And then she was saying she's getting ridiculed. She's a Latina woman, and she was getting ridiculed. Oh no, you're Latina. You should be on the left. I think that notion is breaking. And like the host was just saying here, the dam is about to break, and that's how it is. That slow trickle just becomes so much more, and all the water rushes through. And I think that's been happening for a while, and the cracks keep deepening, and they're not getting repaired. In fact, especially with the immigration crisis and the stuff with kids in schools, they are widening especially faster. So people on the left are just like, I'm done with this. It is crazy because people on the left that are going to the right, they're probably not even on the right. They probably still want UBI. They still probably want welfare. They want Social Security. Half the people on the right want Social Security, which I think is bonkers. But that's how it is. So even people on the right are on the left. And then still people are moving more far right. Because this is how it is. They just get it. It's just like, hey, these policies that the left has championed for years and years and years. I mean, the left was in favor of slavery. That was the Democrats. I was on the left. That was almost 200 years ago. So I think people are starting to wake up to this stuff. The internet is an amazing invention. And people are just like, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I woke up to this stuff and I'm not having it. So I'm going to the right. Even if I'm not even on the right, at least they have some type of decency. Do you know what I mean? Like Jimmy Dore, prominent podcaster, YouTuber, whatever you want to call him. I don't think he's on the right, but at the same time, he's like, hey, I at least can agree with people on the right somewhat. I can have a discussion. They're not going to come burn down my house. Or some wild stuff like that. They're going to be like, oh, okay, I disagree with you. I disagree with Jimmy Dore politically, on policy, on almost everything. But he's a decent guy. I've seen conversation with him and stuff, and he's a decent guy. Politics aren't everything. Being a decent person is everything. And then with everyone on the left, they lie, they cheat, they steal. Not decent people. And people are starting to wake up to this. And so I think it's just going to backfire on the left. They've pushed too hard, and I think that end is near for them. Will the left go away? Absolutely not. I think the extreme left will go away, and then we can actually have leftists like Jimmy Dore and Russell Brand. That'd be awesome. That's the right and left again. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. Like normalcy, at least. And we could disagree on policy. I'm a libertarian, so I just want to get rid of all of it and just have the very, very basics of government. But then we can have that discussion. You have the discussion with a leftist, they're just going to hate you. You're just going to be like, oh, you would vote for Trump. I hate you. And then that's it. No. And that's just what they're going to say. They don't care about anything else. Trump, no. It's derangement. It's derangement. It really is. But I want to get the left back to where it was and just argue about. But we have to get rid of the establishment for that, though. The establishment wants it to go left to right, but they don't really want it to change. Do you think Mitch McConnell is actually for the people? Absolutely not. That's why the guy won't retire. He just won't retire, even though he's all freezing up and all this stuff. He won't retire because he wants the power so he can get those establishment benefits. He's also awful. So it's not necessarily about party, not at all. It's just people moving to the right. I would say libertarianism is on the right, but it's inherently not really. Libertarianism just shares kind of half left, half right. But nowadays, how it is, you just go to the right because everyone's going to the right because look at the left has gone so insane. Normally, libertarians would be like, okay, war on drugs. Okay, no war. I don't know. It's all shifted because now the right's all of these people. Everyone that's like libertarian has went to the right. Thank you, Ron Paul. Legend. But you know what I mean? It's just all went so and saying that the left, as it is now, just can't exist. It's like how the right became the left because the right were all such more warmongers and people just didn't want it anymore. So, and then the same thing with the war on drugs, the people just didn't want it. So now the right changed. So I hope the left does the same thing. Let's get more RFK Juniors. Let's go get more Jimmy Dores on the left. And all these crazy people, they can go do their own socialist party that won't ever get anywhere. And then at least we can have decent discussions and move this country into the right direction. But with that, I will leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me on this awesome Sunday night. I meant to do an hour, maybe 2. I went 3:30. My goodness. I get a little passionate about these stories sometimes. But I definitely appreciate it. Definitely like this video. Subscribe. Honestly, I don't even care if you like this video. No one watches my live stuff. It just gets me more amped up. So, subscribe. Watch my clips. Share my clips. Definitely appreciate anyone that's still watching. Hearing my ranting. I love you guys. We're kindred spirits, I'm sure. So, yeah. And just spread this message with other people. Share my clips around. No one's going to watch a 3.5 hour episode from some new guy like me, like 2,000 subscribers. They're all going to think I'm a joke. But I put out 10 clips a day. Share those with people. I definitely appreciate it. And let's just keep moving on and spreading that message. But with that, I am going to call it a night. Again, definitely appreciate you. You have a great week. If you don't tune in again, which I hope you do, I'll be here all week, streaming every day. I'm trying to get to the 2 p.m. mark, but it's just not happening. So I'll just stream randomly sometime throughout the day. I'm going to still aim for the 2 p.m. Still going to aim for it. But with all the editing and stuff, when I do this late, it just becomes a mess. Let's just put it that way. But I'll stream every day. Keep posting these clips. Definitely appreciate you watching and definitely share. All right, everybody. You have a great night. Peace out.